Just let me know when the intro is happening so I don't interrupt you again.
It's I've got a strategy now. It's good. It's good. Okay, we're fine.
Okay.
Okay. Hey guys, Tarke here, and before we start, DatModz, would you like to say anything?
Hey guys, nice to see you again. Thanks for inviting me back. Okay, you can start now.
Brilliant. So
okay, perfect.
He did it again.
Right. Well, now that he's done it again, Raiz can't make today's episode. The schedule didn't work out for him, and he hadn't played enough of the league mechanic. So we're just gonna have to make do with this amazing cast of people. Before we get into our full-on heist discussions, what's everyone been up to? DatModz, what league are you playing? What builds are you playing?
Hey guys, I'm so sorry. I really tried this time. No, yeah, I've been. I started out Heist League on solo self-found hardcore, and I started out with Hexblast, Occultist. It was kind of underwhelming. I couldn't really scale up the damage too well on solo self-found. I was stuck on a 4-link for the first 3 days, and I decided to reroll to Cold Dot. It's been going well. I haven't died yet. Been doing Heist, Grand Heist, and yeah, it's been going pretty good. Just been playing an older build.
What level are you up to now?
Almost 95.
It's good.
Yeah.
What about you, Nugiyen? What builds you playing?
Started with Hierophant, Hexblast, Archmage, Ignite. It went okay. Kind of like stuck on around T11s. Damage felt a little rough. Decided to re-roll. I couldn't really get the gear because like the Archmage and everything, and having to kill the Guardian and not really feeling like you kill them fast enough, so they are kind of dangerous. I was like, yeah, I'll just re-roll in something a little stronger. But then I re-rolled second. Oh, then I went Freezing Pulse. Just I thought, what's new? Pinpoint and the Mark. Pinpoint and Mark are insane. Self-cast Freeze Pulse is like, But with the new stuff, it's, I mean, it's good. It's actually a good build. It's just, it needs gear when you're self-cast with a build like that to really like pump it. Because I went crit immediately. So it's like doing that on SSF and with nothing in the bank is pretty rough.
Yeah.
So I got one shot on that to Mr. Bird or Mrs. Bird with her wing flap. So I got one shot from that. That was interesting. Not really too sad. I kind of saw it coming. Well, I didn't see it coming, but you know what I mean.
I saw a one shot coming.
Yeah,
not that specific
death
one.
in the horizon. I had it in my mind. Went Ass Blast, Assassin, Blade Blast, Blade Fall, Poison, with all the good stuff at the bottom. That's a good build. Played that. Did Awakener with that. Then rerolled again because I got the Helmet of the Awakener into Trickster Hexblast Ignite, which has a fair amount more damage. The reason why I didn't go with that to begin with was because the ailment immunity. I thought I would have more need of that, but I feel like Trickster is just better because you lose all the spell damage on Hierophant. Doesn't benefit you on Ignite at all. So it's like, it's just not enough damage. So Trickster, I think, is the way to go. And it's feeling really good so far.
Yeah.
You've really played a lot of builds this league, Nugi.
I mean, I'm back to my old self. Just reroll. I used to reroll like once every 2 days. For like months on end.
I think we've all been there. You played Hexblast as well, Ziggy, right?
I did, yes. I've been also working on my puppeteering act. So that involves, being able to talk without moving your mouth. So I'm going to be practicing that most of the podcast as well. But yes, I did Hexblast Ignite as an occultist. Probably Trickster is the other good option. I also considered Hierophant, but I'm thoroughly whelmed by it, actually, in contrast to many other people's experiences with the Hexblast. It went pretty well for me. I did get a Tabula drop early on with Archmage. It helped a lot. But it's like the Ignite carries the mechanics of the skill, the Ignite Prolif, gives you that comfort that Hexblast doesn't naturally have, and Archmage gives you the damage. And the skill is mechanically very fun and interesting. I really, really like the elemental kind of. It's more of an elemental skill than it is a chaos skill, and yeah, no, it's been really good. I haven't progressed through the Atlas as much as I would have normally because of pretty much exclusive heisting. But I'm starting to notice the single target dropping off a little bit now that I'm kind of getting to like those mid levels, starting to get into some of the higher versions of Conquerors. But the clear is really good. The single target so far has been really good. It's really nice for heisting. You can do a lot with it, adding curses and things like that. Plenty of like different tools to sync with. So I've enjoyed the Hexblast a lot, and I've heard a lot of people like quitting and re-rolling it. So different experience with the ignites, I guess. It's good fun.
How do you like the survivability on it?
I'm like, mine never matter. So I've got 8-9k total just from the life to mana. I didn't end up going like last time I did a build like this. I did glancing blows, but its movement and nerf kind of meant that I didn't go for it this time. Just worked in agnostic as I kind of built up the gear and got better mana regen and things like that. It's a little bit harder on a cultist than it would be on say a trickster, but once I got that rolling, it's feeling pretty good, even in some of the scarier heist situations. I think a lot of the survivability comes from the fact that you just kind of nuke stuff from the edge of the screen with like a massive proliferating ignite, and the enemies run into the ignite field and die. So I think that helps quite a bit. Trickster probably have a bit more survivability, and you could certainly change some of the curses to defensive curses too. I'm using 3 offensive curses. I found like a alt quality Enfeeble that gives Doom stack rate, and I was like, you could actually use Enfeeble as your main curse. It's like 40% increased Doom gain rate or something on the skill, so it's like not bad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So there's room to tinker with it. I don't know exactly how it's going to go in the the tier 16 equivalent heists. So I'm not quite up to there yet.
Yeah. Are you casting 2 curses manually, or are you just doing a 1 manual curse and then just using other applications for other curses?
Initially, I was doing the 2 alternate curses, and I think for hit damage based builds, you kind of have to, because you need to be able to, pop them twice. So you have to do 2 manual curses, which is, I think, a big part of the reason why a lot of people didn't like the skill. Because I'm doing ignite, I only need 1 curse to pop, because once you get your ignite, you're good. So I've been using Vixens. So I got Vixens with like 3 curses in it, or 2 curses in it, and just manually cast the 1 curse and then reapply it afterwards. And that is really smooth, actually. It's like, it reminds me of playing old school Flame Blast, but it's like faster. So it's like faster than channeling up and releasing a Flame Blast, because you just get pop and it's done.
Yes, that sound as well.
Yeah,
definitely the Ignite Prolif is the way to go with that skill.
Yeah, I think it's been the smoothest experience from like checking on other people. I saw Mathil playing like hit based, and it looked alright, but yeah, I think the smoothness of this is really, really good.
Yeah, it's hard to scale the hit base. There's not really much on the tree that you could really boost it up with.
And then it's only got the 4% crit as well.
Yeah, a little lacking in support gems.
Awkward.
And it's like a Shaper chest, crit gem, or like all the crit scaling, lots of crit gear. Assassin's Mark is like insane for it though on bossing. So there's like potential for crit build, but it's really hard to gear.
Definitely not league starting material.
No, I would say that is not a league. The crit build is not a league starter.
Yeah, it's like second, third build after you queued wealth.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I feel really bad for all the people who were like, oh, let's copy my favorite YouTuber's league starter, because you had Mathil doing crit Hexblast, and you had Ziz with the Archmage Crackling Lance, like all these thousands of poor people. It's like, my build is awful. And then they start just re-rolling Essence Drain and stuff.
It's like most of the new skills weren't good league starters, which is like
Flame Wall.
I'd say they're like fairly balanced. Yeah, Flame Wall is pretty good, and so apparently some of the steel skills are going all right. And I've heard reasonable things about the discharge sort of things, like as on a chieftain, is like a simple setup. But it's weird because I feel like we got like a pretty balanced selection of skills this time, when usually they release pretty pushed skills. They might be like 1 or 2 duds, but most of the time the new skills are pushed. So as a result, everyone tried the new skills at league launch expecting them to be pog like normal, and kind of hated it. A lot of people seem to not enjoyed their new skill builds.
Yeah, before I get to Octavian, just because it is relevant. So the Flame Wall pog it's a half pog. So if you guys remember, I said I want to do a pure Flame Wall build. I was like, Fireball, no, I want to go pure Flame Wall. So I'm leveling my pure Flame Wall, and it's really good. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I'm kind of like, there's this weird thing with my damage though. Like it feels great, and then it's like shit for half an act. Then it levels up, then it feels good again. So I'm looking at my skill gems, and I realized that I had something like a level 12 Fireball and a level 6 Flame Wall, and my level 6 Flame Wall needed more XP to get to level 7 than my Fireball did because it was bugged. So it was basically it's a level 4 gem that thought it was like a level 28 gem. So it was gaining like the XP brackets to level up was if it was 28. So it was completely balked. So I ended up re-rolling it at the end of Act 3 because I should have just stuck with it and just played Fireball, because by Act like 9 it would have evened out. But I was like, when I wanted to do just Flame Wall, I was like, nah, screw this. So I re-rolled, and a lot of people didn't notice it because they weren't trying to use Flame Wall as their main skill, and they didn't patch it for like 4 or 5 days. So while this was going on, I'd heard that there was a bug with Cremation that it was getting like free GMP, and one of my other league starters I was considering was Cremation, so I thought, sorry, I'll just go Cremation. Apparently it's positively bugged. Yeah, it didn't get free GMP, it just had absolute eye terror. Octavian, would you maybe like to elaborate?
Yeah, so Cremation was my starter. I had a rough starter of it. I died a few times to overzealously doing heists back when they were still extremely rippy, and I did not know what was rippy. So died 2 or 3 times for that, but I've got my feet under me again. And yeah, I'm glad I'm not staring into the sun while playing my build anymore. Cremation had a purely visual bug where it would fire 3 times or 4 times the projectiles that it should. And it was even more hilarious if you had the MTX, because every projectile would make the impact sound, and the Quicksilver MTX makes an impact sound like you're dropping something into like a little bucket of water every time one of them hits the ground. So you'd be blinded and deafened.
Yeah. So I ended up...
and also enemies had the bug, but it wasn't visual for enemies.
Yeah, they had the damage.
So and anything that was coded as Cremation would have, or was like based off Cremation's code or something. I don't know how it works. So the Blood Geyser that Bestiary mobs would do, for instance, or the Abyss boss that used a Stygian version of Cremation, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I almost died of that. I got an early Abyss boss, and I'm like, oh, look, a little geyser. That doesn't usually hurt. My character just like instantly dipped. I had to pop all my life flasks, and I just logged out. Like, forget this, I'm out. And also the Caldera, the mini boss.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like one of the mini bosses. Yeah, that was not visual either. That did a lot of damage.
Yeah. So I re-rolled 3 times on day 1. I've never done that before. It was on me because I went from a bugged build to something I knew was bugged, but I thought I was being smart by like, oh, exploit free. It's like, no, this was a terrible idea. So I ended up playing a Trapper, and Trapper's been really fun. Great for the league mechanic because you just throw a flamethrower trap and then step around the thing and it kills everything. And Void Sphere is amazing. Void Sphere is so good. So I've had a lot of fun. And because I'm a dirty little role player, I feel very immersive as like a little saboteur breaking into things. So that's fun. But yeah, Octavian, how's your league start been going?
Well, like I said, a bit rough with a few rips. I also have made the mistake of getting really excited about a build for my next build that needs a specific alt quality gem, and I'm playing in solo self-found hardcore. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get to play that. My goal is I need the alt quality Berserk that gives more spell damage while berserking, because I really want to use that and use the Kurui Timeless Jewel that gives rage regen, which that's a lot easier to target. Like, you just need any Kurui Timeless Jewel. You just do legions until you get that. And I can actually use Heist to target that by doing heists that give legion splinters as a reward on the side rooms. So I've actually almost got a few timeless emblems to go and do that. So I can get that, but getting the alt quality gem is just a matter of RNG, because blueprints are not really target farmable. You just kind of get them randomly from whatever content you're doing. And very often they don't have gems in them.
Can't you, because there's like an orb that changes the qualities, right? You could use that on a normal Berserk. Does that work? Yeah.
So I need to, I mean, I still only have a 1 and 3, or is it 1 and 2? I forget how many alt qualities Berserk has. But yeah, I think that the setup's going to be really, really strong, because you don't mind linking Enhance to a utility gem, unlike your main links, so you can actually cheese the extra quality through Enhance, and you can get up to like, I mean, I'm not going to do this in Soul Self-Found, but if you have a level 4 Enhance and you put it in like a Nyx Lunaris with plus gems, you can get like 74% more spell damage while berserking, on top of the regular benefits of Berserk, which is more movement speed and less damage taken. And then you can sustain that through the Karui Jewel and have like 70-80% uptime. It seems like a really powerful defensive and offensive layer for a build.
Yeah, if you just want to send me the path to building, I'll review the build for you.
Sure.
And,
I mean,
yeah, I'll just let you know how it's going to work. Yeah, I'll give a little different perspective. Yeah.
If you get the gem, go ahead.
Yeah. Just send me
You're solo self-found too, right? Good luck.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We're all solo self-found here, except for Ziggy, who's doing Trade League, but private Trade League. So we're all special. We all get to feel special.
I'm gonna transfer to Trade League if I finish with this character and I don't have the gem. Probably.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool. Are you planning on staying Soul Self-Found, or are you going to go to Trade League soon?
I will probably transfer to Trade League after this character. I want to get 100 in Solo Self-Found. I've never done that before, so finish that gold and transfer is the current plan.
That's cool.
Boy,
you continue doing Heist while doing that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was going to save this for later on in the podcast, but that is my biggest complaint about Heist. I really wish it gave good XP, like even decent. I did some math yesterday. It's very spooky. I'm going to scare chat with a number or two. I ran a T10 map yesterday on a level 92 character and logged the total amount of XP I got. And then I ran a T13, I think T12 or 13 Heist. And it was like much longer. I killed more monsters and I got 92% of the XP of the T10 map at level 92. Which, I mean, I understand Heist not giving full XP because they're bigger and you get a lot of them and they have a lot of rare monsters, so they do have to limit that somewhat. But a T12 one should give me more XP than a T10 map does, or at least equivalent to a T10 map for the amount of time I spend in it. It's my biggest gripe.
It was a tier 12 because I was on a Discord call with you while you were doing it. And one thing which I found particularly funny about that, so I was trying to stay up late for this podcast, so I did like a good 8-10 hour just burning heist session, and I'm like, I'm gonna knock out all my heists, I'm gonna go into this podcast, I'm gonna have all of the heist big brain takes. I started that session at level 90. I finished this hardcore 8-10 hour gameplay level 90. I'm 2 bars from 91, so I'm close, but yeah, no, the XP isn't great. No.
I'm looking up your character right now to see how many heists you've done. Oh, you finished the contract achievement. 250 completed.
Yeah, I've got Nanette at level 5. My Vendiri's about to get level 5. I'm getting there. I'm getting there slowly. Before we talk about Heist, actually, just to gauge where everyone's at, how many level 5s do people have?
One.
I think I got one.
None yet. How you guys already 5?
Oh,
I've been off the past 2 days.
What a noob. Right, Ziggy's off the podcast.
Zero. Man, I might be going hard on it too, but I'm falling behind. Fuck.
You have quite a few that are almost level 5, but not quite.
Yeah.
How do I see it? Is there is challenges, I guess?
Yeah, there's challenges. And you can also just press B in Rogue Harbor and just look at what level your rogues are.
Wait, B or V?
I've got it on V. So V.
Man, why do I feel like a noob cast? Please.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, Ziggy, my Huck is only level 3.
Same.
Right, so
Poor
I think
Huck, man.
I think the best way for us to do this, because there's been 3 very different versions of Heist, and it's also just worth noting that Path of Exile has just tweeted, we're going through all the Heist feedback now, and are keen to address the issues in a news post later this week, potentially tomorrow. In the meantime, the devs are continuing work on improvements and fixes to the Heist, and will be releasing them as soon as possible. Right.
Version 4 incoming.
Version 4. We've had 3 incredibly different versions of Heist. in a week, which is kind of insane. So if we just start from initial launch heist, how did initial launch heist match our expectations from what we saw of the announcement in the trailer, DatModz?
That's how I feel. No, initial launch heist, I was so hyped about it. You know, Chris Wilson's been talking about it forever. He hyped it up since Harvest. I was excited to get into it. The mechanics seemed cool on paper and in the trailers. And I went on my first heist and it crashed. I'm like, what the heck is this? This is probably just an isolated incident. It's probably not going to happen again. Went into it again while leveling, and doing hardcore Soul Self-Found. Went into it, same exact thing. I couldn't get one of the NPCs bugged out. I think it was like an agility NPC. Okay, can't do it. Okay, and then I basically just saved some heists, got the maps, started running them, and it was fun. I liked the mechanic, but things just weren't working right. There's a lot of interaction bugs. There's crashes. On the first version, I tried a couple of grand heists. I think I tried 4 grand heists on the initial version. I was only able to do 1. Everything else crashed. I got stuck in a door, and I couldn't get out of the door. Apparently, you could use smoke mine, but I didn't have smoke mine in my inventory. I didn't realize I was going to get stuck literally inside of the door. Like the vault door opened up, and I got stuck inside the vault door. And I could cast my abilities and stuff, but I couldn't move out of the vault door. But apparently smoke mine worked to fix it, but I only had flame dash. I'm like, oh, well, I'm just stuck in the vault door, and I exited, and I tried to go back, and I couldn't enter. But yeah, the first version, it was rough. And then the other thing is I kind of just set up my character. I set up like a level 1 vortex with like temp chains, and we're kind of just like playing, we're just being chased by chickens, right? I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't killing any of the mobs on the first version. I was just trying to slow down their action speed as much as possible and just loot all the chests that way. And it worked, but I kind of just felt it was like weird playing an ARPG and you just kited all the mobs around. And then when I did attempt to stealth in the first version of the game, especially during Grand Heist, all the NPCs were super aggro. So I'm just like, I'm trying to be super sneaky and stuff. Then all my NPCs would just rush towards the mobs, start whacking them, kill them super quick, and my alert level would go up. And I'm just there, I'm like, why are you guys doing this? I'm trying to stealth and be sneaky, and they're just killing the mobs without my permission, and I have no control or macro over them, and my alert level's going up, and I'm like slowing everything. I got an army of mobs behind me, and it just ruined some of my Grand Heists.
Yeah, sneaky is not. I don't know. It doesn't
sneaky
really
didn't work. Yeah,
There's too tight quarters, too much density, and too aggro on the NPCs, like you said. Like I don't think there was an iteration of Heist where just sneaking past all the monsters was an option.
Oh yeah, it seemed like a good idea. Well, it didn't really seem like a good idea at first, but it wasn't implemented well in the way that it functioned correctly. It just kind of like counterintuitive to what core ARPG gameplay is like. So I would say like my first impression was fairly negative, but the loot was pretty good. I was getting some nice stuff while leveling, especially lower leveling, like entry level maps and stuff, finding a lot of 5 links and 6 links. I guess a lot of people didn't know that the armor chests you could drop a lot of 5 links and 6 links. But once I found that, I'm like, oh shit, 6 link astral plate. Got a bunch of good loot there. So that was cool. Nice. And then it kind of tapered off after that. Oh, we're just talking about phase 1 right now.
Yeah, just phase 1.
Phase 1. Yeah, so phase 1, I would say it was fairly negative and most things didn't work. And I didn't really like the gameplay of just cutting stuff around. And there was quite a few bugs with NPC interactions and timers, how long it took your NPCs to open up doors. So.
What about you, Nugiyen?
So I kind of skipped. Okay, so I skipped Heist in the beginning because I was just doing the normal race thing where you just get to maps, and then I was like, okay, and then we're gonna heist from the map if we feel like it's worth it. And I was kind of low on gear. I thought, okay, I kind of need some more gear because we're not really getting anything in the base game, so we kind of have to do Heist to get some gear because I'm Archmage and I'm kind of struggling here. But I could barely open any of the heists because all my contracts required level 2s. So I'm like, oh shit. And so I bought as many as I could from the vendor thing. and I got some of them, but it was a mess. I got kind of stuck on that all the time, and then you get all the green contracts stuck in my inventory, but they were all like the level of my maps, and these things were like super scary, and they were stuck in there, and I couldn't throw them away, and I didn't know if the quests were like needed for later, and if I threw them away on the ground, if I was like screwing myself over like that. So it was just kind of weird going if you had ignored it for too long, if you hadn't done anything from the beginning. So that was a bit of a mess. I finally start and getting it rolling a little bit. And these NPCs, the collision of the NPCs, just I don't know what's going on. They collide with everything. They collide with you. You want them to bomb something, and they do like the kind of thing where they just run into you. Like, oh, what are we going? Like, what the fuck is going on here? I don't know. So that was weird. Then the mobs start hitting me for like all my life. Every single time I get hit, I'm like, what the fuck? So that was insane. I had 6,500 effective life. I stand on one little robot dude that explode. 5,000 hit. Okay, dude, in a 67 zone. Yep. Well, this is going great. Okay. So I thought like every time I went in, I was going to die, and then the door started not opening, so that was also great. So I couldn't like half my things. I couldn't even go through the door in the end. I was like, okay, well let's run a grand heist. Okay, I set up a grand heist. Yeah, the doors didn't open there either. So I had a 3 heist wing with all my coins basically spent. None of the doors opened. So yeah, that was great. Mm-hmm.
So glowing review, was it? Was that?
Yeah. Glowing review.
Oh. What about you, Ziggy?
My day one experience was pretty much bug free and crash free. I like dodged all the issues, and that was before we knew that the alert was on kill. I thought the alert was on being spotted, so I had a great time. I freaking loved it day one. It was so good. It was so good. I was getting in there, you know. I was like getting spotted, murdering the guards, clicking the chests, getting crap loads of loot, getting 5 links, getting early tabulas and heaps of leveling gear, and I had a really good time with it. It's been like day 2 or 3 that we kind of realized the alert on kill thing, and I was like, okay, all right, that's a bit weird. We started kiting them around. I'd play with my partner the whole time, so we were kind of co-oping it. We realized how co-op friendly the league was compared to every other league ever in existence, especially coming off Harvest, which was anti-co-op. I mean, that league was awful for co-op. Everything you did just screwed over your partner. Like they got 0 progression in anything, so they could basically not harvest at all. This league, brilliant co-op implementation. Started thinking it was a little bit weird with the kiting around thing, but the co-op was so good. You know, we were having fun. We were like
party as well, right?
Yeah. Everything works in co-op in this league. It's the first time they've like really actually nailed it. Your companions rogues get 50% of the XP that they would normally get from the heist if they run one of your contracts with you. And if you're in the coin room at the end together, you get the artifact each. Both of you get it. So you get a copy of it that you can take out and you still earn coins. And then like the mechanics of kind of like, you know, one person dies, the other person scoops up the loot and tries to make it out with it. It's really exciting. So we had a super fun time with it. But then you're like day 2 or 3 or something when it kind of started to, you know, we kept kiting the monsters around, and I started to feel this is really dumb. This is really dumb. So I think around that time I made a video kind of like talking about just how that alert on kill was going to be a massive problem and advocating for its removal, but its replacement with something else like alert on being spotted or gaining alert over time after you've been spotted. So then when and then we moved into phase 2, and I was a bit confused about kind of how they approached that. But contrary to other people's experiences, I had a really good time in that first phase until we realized about kind of like how the alert on kill was playing out.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy like how some people are having 0 issues, but I wonder if we'll ever get a statistic amount, you know, like how many people actually were having issues.
I have a feeling that depending on what NPCs you use, you will have a very different experience as well.
That is
like
true.
what bugs out and what layout you chose as well, I think mattered a lot.
So for Grand Heist, this was true up until the 2nd fix. Repository was the one with the bugs. Repository was the only one.
The first one I ran.
Yeah, it was the only one with the broken doors. So anyone whose first couple of Grand Heists were repositories, they were likely to run into that bug. But anyone who didn't have repositories would never have that bug. So that really sucked.
Yeah, and I noticed also with on the original patch that it was mostly for me agility and perception mobs were bugging out your NPCs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so but like yeah, with demolition, I never had like a bug with the demolition NPC ever.
Yeah. Same with like lockpicking, brute force, and all that other stuff. And also, like, when it came to sort of like the rogue AI, it's like Niles. I'm sure Octavian will rage about Niles. It's like, it seems to be like the ranged ones would break more. So it's like if most of your like rogues were like melee, and then the mission types that you weren't bugging out in the right layouts, then you can have a completely different experience to someone. Yeah. And also like with what Nugi had, it's like if you were engaging with a mechanic, then when you got to maps, all your rogues were level 2, so you never had the like what do I do thing. Whereas the optimal strat normally is you ignore legal mechanics so you get maps. So if you do that, you've then got the issue. Alk was talking about this as well. Where it's like, oh, I can't do any of my contracts because the levels are screwed. But anyway, what about you, Octavian? What was your initial experience of Heist?
Actually, similar to Nugi in that regard, I skipped it pretty much all the way through leveling, just trying to get to endgame. I actually barely played Heist at all on the phase 1, as you want to call it. Like, I did just enough heists to get my first character dead to them. So I did like 3 heists or something, and then ran into a bunch of Templars and fell over. And then I re-leveled, and I wasn't doing heists while re-leveling. So I did like a lot of because I ripped a couple times very early on. I didn't actually do phase 1 of Heist very much because I was mainly focused on just getting back to maps and getting a character put together. So I didn't do a lot of the kiting mobs around and all that. It didn't look very fun to me though, so I'm glad that went away. I've also been fairly lucky in that I have dodged a lot of crashes and a lot of bugs. I've had like 3 crashes over the whole league, which from what I've heard from other people is pretty damn minimal, and every grand heist I've done has worked. So I've been very lucky in that regard. Though the one time I did crash, or one of the times I did crash, I crashed on the way out of a heist with a replica bitter dream that I really wanted for the vendor recipe.
Oh,
I'm not going to get that again.
Oh,
Same thing happened to me.
I wish I knew what was behind the doors.
That sucks. Now I've been in the same boat as you, where like client crashes has probably been my best league in terms of performance. I have not had like any client crashes. Everything has been related to Heist, where I've been unable to complete stuff. So I guess that's a good thing. I'm getting less client crashes and normal game crashes than normal.
Yeah, I mean, I've also had the one problem I have had consistently is that randomly 2 or 3 times a day my game will freeze for about 10 seconds, maybe 5 seconds. Feels like 10 seconds, closer to 5 seconds. And I don't know what causes it, and I don't know when it's going to happen. So it's just a nice little surprise that I get now and again. You know, like maybe that happens when I'm charging through a doorway to fight some Templar guys. Or maybe it happens when I'm in my hideout sorting loot. Who knows? It's fun. I look forward to it every day.
Well, just a little bit of extra spice, a little bit of seasoning on your gameplay experience. But do you have anything else to say about your initial experience, or should I go?
Not phase 1 Heist. I can talk about the other ones if you'd like, but
we'll get to that in a bit.
Did not play much of the initial implementation of Heist.
So this is going to sound really weird. Because I had 2 bugged League starter builds, I had a really good Heist first experience. Because I basically got to experience everything about the League and then choose my 3rd build, which is what I'm still playing now, with all the knowledge of how the League functioned. So, and because I did end up just doing loads of Heist early on, because I'd accepted, right, I'm playing SSF, I'm on my 3rd character, day 1, I don't care about pushing. Like, at this point, I'm just going to go slow, do as much of the new League, do the content creator thing, learn how it works so I can tell people like how to do all the stuff. So, on my first character, on the Flame War character, I was like, oh, whenever you do an Isla mission, you get unique chests. I could farm an easy tabula. So I spent an hour and a half spamming, like level 3 heist or whatever, like the lowest you could possibly do. I got every single unique leveling item 5 times except for fucking tabula. I did it for an hour and a half. it was so broken that GGG actually patched it and they removed it because people were using it to print tabulars. And it's like, I've been doing this for an hour and a half. I have actually get a fucking tabular. And apparently this is so broken they had to delete it. So anyway, so that didn't work for me. It was really frustrating. So then when I made my cremation character, I did much of the same thing. I farmed it a lot early on. And then when I did my trapper, which is what I'm still playing now, I had all the leveling gear. So I was having like level 3 rogues before I'd even hit maps, just because I'd done so much of like the low level content. And the kiting meta made sense. So I'm like, okay, so I want to make a kiting build. What would be the best way to do that? I'll play Saboteur because I'll have the AoE blind aura. I'll have acro phase acro, a high amount of evasion. And the cool thing about the blind aura is because it blinds all the mobs, it meant that the mobs wouldn't interrupt my rogues because they were blinded. So it made my rogues like have avoidance as well, so that was really good. So I was having a lot of fun with the initial version, but it's kind of like I'd fully gamed the system entirely in my favor, and if I had done a crackling lance or like some blazing salvo or like some hex blast league stuff, meme stuff, I would have had an awful time. In terms of performance, I only crashed in Grand Heists, but my like contracts were mostly pretty stable. I lost a Rapska Bitter Dream, and I was really salty about that. Really salty about that. And other than that, I didn't have that many bugs, and I was very fortunate that by the time of the big bugs were getting reported, I knew, like, don't do this tile set, or don't do this. So I was kind of saving the things that I knew would break. So I was pretty favorable of the initial system. I made a video where I was kind of like, I'm actually really enjoying this league because it's very different, and I was just like, when I ended up getting to maps, all I was doing was I was buying all of the 67 heists off the vendor. As soon as I level up, buy out again. So I was just farming heists, not doing like any mapping content. So I was having a lot of fun with that. And my initial video was basically, I can understand why the kite system is weird, because the kite system is weird and it doesn't really make sense from either a like gameplay perspective, but also from a like I'm stealing things perspective. It doesn't really make sense of I've got 1,000 guards running behind me, but somehow an alarm hasn't gone off, and you guys are chill until I just click the particular chest, at which point now I've gone too far, and now the alarm will go off. Like
they're following you to see what you're gonna do. They're curious.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you've got the random security guard following you around the store. Like, oh, we're gonna wait for him to pick the thing, then we're gonna get him. It was kind of that, but on a very extreme level. So that felt a bit weird. But yeah, I think my initial video was basically a system of, this needs some work and they need to fix the bugs because the bugs are ruining this for a lot of people, but I'm kind of into it. So then obviously we went into phase 2 and they were just like, we killed alert, which I don't think anyone was expecting, like whatsoever.
Oh.
So
that caught me off guard too. I'm like, I thought they were going to do something alternative with alert or like start you in a different place.
yeah.
Like, I'm like, wait, why'd they just kill alert totally? This was so unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, are we gonna start talking about the alert 2 thing or
Yeah,
like a
phase
patch
2,
deal?
go
Wait,
DatModz.
before we start doing that, what do you guys think about them like undertuning new skills all the time? Because you mentioned like the new skills are kind of, why do they do that?
Well, usually
Why are they afraid to make new skills good and like have everyone use them?
Usually the skills have been pretty good. Like, it's been a while since we've last had
What
a
was
bad
last league's
set.
new skill?
Like we had Earth Shatter last league.
The
Warcry
slam stuff was good. Yeah,
Slams.
slam
That was
good.
good last league.
Yeah.
Bow League.
Archmage before that was very good. Bow League was,
Yeah, people aren't really playing shrapnel ballistas anymore. Or
Not Bow League.
Arrow.
I mean, like,
There was a Bow League.
Bow League wasn't Bow League. Bow League was Ballista League. But you need to keep in mind, Waggle was going to win that Awakener race with his Ballista champion, but he got screwed over.
Ballistas are like a viable build, but not really great. I don't know. I think this is way off topic for this current podcast,
Okay,
but I still don't really understand why they made you place ballistas at your feet. I've never really understood that change.
Yeah.
It was just the crazy.
You tried building a ballista 20 meters away from your body.
Yeah, I mean, I also can't fire mortars from the sky or summon skeletal
try
undead to do my
harder,
bidding.
Octavian.
Realism is important. Okay.
Are you able to turn invisible and run real fast or something?
Yes.
There's a
you?
lot of
I
skill
mean,
gems that I can't replicate in real life.
You can't see me right now. I might be.
This is true.
But yeah, no, I think everyone can agree that the new skills were rough, and the skills that weren't rough were bugged. So yeah,
all the projectile tags missing and stuff, and cracking lance is like good if Arc didn't exist. Like if Arc was just taken out of the game, people would play crackling lance.
I mean, when they showed Crackling Lance, it seemed that it gained double it. What's it called?
yeah, there was a bug
intensity as
in
well?
the trailer that from spell effect was
Yes.
still gaining the intensify stacks.
But people started like going into that skill with the idea that that's how it would work, which is why people thought it'd be good. Yeah.
Can we also?
They really
Oh, go on.
they really have to push skills like that are self-cast that have benefits for like self-casting and not other things.
Yeah.
They have to push the crap out of it because it's a bit like the slam skills and the war cries and all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Like if you're gonna really encourage like something that is an inherent drawback, such as like slow attack speed or self-casting, you have to really push it. I think I did a decent job with the slam skills to make up for the shortcomings, but yeah, it seems like Crackling Lance they like made it just at full stages, it's a little bit better than Arc, but it doesn't have the same, kind of zapping around clear that Arc has. So
I mean,
kind of missed on that, I think.
There's just not the crazy utility skills that the Slam's got. Like Slam's got all the war cries, and war cries are insane. Like Intimidating Cry does so much by itself. It's your source of Intimidate. It's your source of double damage. It's a source of Fizmit Shred. It's actually stupid how much that does. And like, Blazing Salvo or Crackling Lance self-cast doesn't have something like that. It has Unleash, I guess, as a mechanic, like a secondary mechanic to scale it for Blazing Salvo. You can get +1 Unleash. You don't get double damage and Unnerve for free.
I mean,
PoE's current meta just doesn't allow for self-casting. So if you try and self-cast, you're already starting at a disadvantage. So if they're not giving you an advantage while self-casting through these new skills and mechanics, well, then you'll never win against
Archmage is like Archmage is like the Warcry secondary tool equivalent, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Archmage allows you to build a defensive stat that's also an offensive stat.
But think about what it does, though. It allows you to do big bursts of damage. It's never really a continuous cast. It's you unleash it or you have something that has like reclamation that lingers. So it already in that going Archmage, you already kind of circumvents one of the problems of being self-cast, which is being stationary for too long.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. It has to be bursty for self-cast to be good. It can't be like sustained fire. Doesn't really work very well right now in PoE.
They did try and help it though. I think adding stuff like Frost Shield is a good step in helping that. And I think that was a really neat little thing we got. So that's like a step. But it's like a very minor thing in the way of in comparison to something like a Warcry. So they need to do more of that benefits self-cast even more.
Have you been using Frost Shield?
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, I saw some clips of it, just like breathing stuff constantly.
Oh, that was that's like an
armor.
Yeah,
with the like an alt Frost Shield. Yeah,
no, that's Arctic Armor. You think of the alternate Arctic Armor.
Different. It's not the same skill.
Yeah, Frost Shield is the bubble.
The bubble.
Never mind.
Wrong thing.
So the Frost Shield is the one that sucks ES from you to generate a shield, while creating a chilling effect area and giving you a spell crit while under it.
I'll have to try that one then.
I think
it's good.
I think the main issue they had this time around, and I think it shows, is they just tried to jam too much into one league. And we'll get into that when we go back to Heist, but all the utility skills they released are all great. Void Sphere's awesome, Frost Shield's awesome, Flame Wall's great. But like all of the individual like caster package they've tried to add on top and then didn't give any support to. Because when I saw they were adding these new skills, I thought, oh, we're going to get some new cool stuff on the tree possibly, like what we're going to do. And it's like, we've made Intensify slightly better. And then we also had the whole curse rework with hex stuff added to the tree. but then no occultist rework. That still makes me so angry that they didn't touch occultist. Yeah, I think if they just made this patch skill-wise just the utility skills, curse rework, hex blast, that would have been enough. We didn't need the firestorm. We didn't need the crack lance. We didn't need the blazing salvo. Like, we just didn't need it.
I feel like we always need it. I mean,
Well,
you can always say we don't need it. I feel like there needs to be a reasonable amount of new skills in a new league.
Would you not say that the 3 new utility skills, an entire curse rework, hex blast, and that's quite a lot of skills.
Yeah.
And the steel stuff as well.
That's too, like, I think you can't really just do support skills. Like, even if they're ridiculously good. And curse is probably like too niche. Like as much as I like Hex Blast, it's too niche for them to just release that because people will be like, "There's literally nothing for me to play because I'm not interested in curse skills." So I think they had to give a bit of diversity there.
They just need to bump the numbers a little bit more.
I kind of agree. Like, I don't think the behavior of Salvo or Crackling Lance are uninteresting.
No,
I think they're cool skills. The fork mechanic on Salvo is pretty neat. Like, just. It's good that it could be as simple a fix as just make number bigger because that's not that hard to do.
Yeah, but the thing is, they probably won't do it this league, though. They'll probably do it like 2 leagues from now when they do like a skill rework. When was the last time they ever buffed a skill during a league?
Well, they've never done that.
Yeah.
So it kind of sucks. We're gonna have to wait to like play the new stuff. Well, you could play it later on, right? But you're just gonna knowingly play it and know other things are a lot better than it.
They're not like so dead in the water that they're not viable with gear.
No.
Like with good gear on a second or third build in a league, I'm sure Crackling Lance, Blazing Salvo, any of these things are going to be perfectly fine. They just were disappointing starters for a lot of people who, were starting it with meh gear, maybe going slow at league start and playing a skill that wasn't going to carry them in that regard. Like, I don't want to give the impression on the podcast that like Blazing Salvo is a dead skill that you can't play. It's fine, but it's just fine.
I mean, it was dead at arrival because it didn't work.
Yeah.
Was it bugged?
It didn't work with projectile AoE scaling at all.
Well, there you go. It was bugged. But
which is quite
bugs aside, the numbers are good enough that you can make Blazing Salvo work as a skill. It just requires better gear than starter gear.
Yeah.
It requires the skill actually working, and then it's okay.
So now that we've had a little skill rant, so V2 Heist. Let's go with Nugi. V2 Heist.
Click all the boxes, get all the loot.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that was
pretty good summary.
Basically it. Click box, get loot. It felt a lot like D3. It's like, I remember doing goblin runs or let's enter this instance that has chests. You enter, click chest, you go out. You enter, click chest, you go out. It's very much like that until you get all your 6 links or whatever you would like. And as long as you're not crashing or everything's not bugging out, you're good.
Did you find that fun at all?
No.
Did anyone find that fun on the podcast?
It was, I mean, it's nice to get rewarded when you need something, but the actual going through the area felt really dead.
Yeah, you didn't feel like well, I guess there was the threat of getting one-shotted, but there's no mob density. They kept the original mob density, so like while you're walking through, there's no mobs. There's like 2 guards at a door, and you're just playing chest clicking simulator. It was like Vault of Osiris 2.0.
Because the other thing that was bundled with, which Nugi didn't really touch on, was the multiple layers of nerfs to the enemies in the zones, where they not only nerfed the number of monsters behind doors, the number of rare monsters, but they also nerfed the number of overlapping attacks that would happen, and they nerfed some specific monsters' damage. So
no, that was patch 3.
No, it happened with both.
They did
they also
as well.
Yeah, they nerfed the overlapping rares behind doors and the number of attacks that come out at the same time in the second patch. And then the third patch, they nerfed a few more monsters base damage, and they made the robobots only explode 20% of the time. So there's been a couple rounds of nerfs, but I think the most significant round of nerfs was with the changes to the alert. because you didn't get one shot from mobs behind doors nearly as frequently anymore. And so that certainly didn't help it to feel like challenging content, which I'm not saying those nerfs weren't deserved, because it was too rippy to begin with, and tons of overlapping attacks all at once as soon as you peek your head around a corner is not fun. So I'm glad they got rid of that to some degree. But all of it taken together while also making it so you can just click every box for free was, I mean, it just made the mechanic feel like it barely even existed anymore.
Yeah, I'd have to say I did not expect them to totally remove the alert mechanic. I thought they would do something like where, like, if a mob spotted you and you didn't kill it quick enough, it would generate some alert or reduce alert level. I think there were even some suggestions that you actually started at the relic and then worked your way through, which would kind of be kind of a little bit weird. Like, instead of backtracking, yeah, we're totally removing the alert levels. Totally caught me off guard, though. Very unexpected.
What about you, Ziggy, before I go on my rant about the alert level?
Before I discuss the part 2 thing, I wanted to say regarding part 1, it is factual that I had no bugs or crashes on day 1 and had a good time with the league. But I do very much empathize, because I did get a lot of comments about this. I do very much empathize with the people who had a lot of crashes and bugs. It's super, super incredibly frustrating. So I do understand your perspectives, but it just so happens it didn't happen to me. I was lucky, you know, maybe Australian servers, I don't know, maybe stream RNG. Maybe ZiggyD pushed the button that makes me get, you know, the good league. But I had a good time with it.
I think to know with all these releases that we have, there's always going to be someone in a league who has the best experience and someone who has the worst experience. This is kind of a universal truth of PoE. I've had leagues as well where I literally had no crashes, no FPS loss, basically no problems. And some other guy could literally not play the game because either he would drop to 0 FPS nonstop or just crash nonstop. So it's like people will have good experience and bad experiences. It's just bound to happen.
It can be hard to imagine. If you crash in every single heist, it can be pretty hard to imagine that someone is actually had a good time with it. It's like, how is that even possible? So I totally understand, chat. I understand the anger regarding my comments there. When it came to part 2, though, because I advocated for the removal of alert on kill, but on the condition that we got alert on being noticed or something like that. So I think that was a big mistake for multiple reasons. They should have done part 2 and part 3 at the same time, or at least held off on that alert change until they had done other stuff. I even think they're probably not all the way there yet. I still think more needs to be done with the alert stuff. But it's a problem because we just kind of walked around clicking chests, which is a bit dumb. I mean, I had fun getting loot, sure, I'm not gonna lie, but it felt like they did half of it too quickly rather than waiting for the full set of changes to come out all at once. And the result of that was people went from like kind of getting pretty good loot to getting insanely good loot because they could click every single chest. And then when they had to rebalance it again, you know, a couple days later, that was enough time for people to get used to that and be like, the league is shit now. The league is garbage, which was exactly what happened. I feel like that's the exact kind of like process the community went through as ZiggyD kind of did these changes. I feel like they really should have held off on that change until they had either at least the chest change ready, if not something else, some other sort of alert mechanic done.
Yeah, I think they were just frantically panicking because the reception of the original league launch was so bad. They didn't want a Harvest 2.0 happening where they just had the largest league drop off, and they just felt pressure to make a change very, very quick.
Yeah,
to kind of like get people in there and actually playing it, even if it wasn't where they wanted to be tuning wise.
Yeah,
because the jump from phase 1 to phase 3 wouldn't have been that bad, right? The loot is pretty good, even still better, I would say, than phase 1 right now. Like, maybe that's just because my rogues and stuff have progressed and all that compared to then. But I feel like I'm getting better loot apart from some of the chest changes. So some of the heists are certainly worse now. You can't just go in and get all currency chests. But in terms of like the number of chests I'm clicking, it's probably about the same, if not more, right?
I would have to probably disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree with that as well.
Yeah,
you're getting less chests than phase 1.
Like normal heists and stuff. Yeah.
What? How?
It depends on how you build it.
Say, yeah.
It's much more reliant on your build now. It is still possible with there's
maybe.
like a couple different build setups. It's possible to get every single box still, even in regular contracts. but you have to like level up your rogues and you have to actually craft gear for them and you have to min max for it. And if you do that, then you can get everything, which is like in theory not a bad system. The failing of it is that we've had multiple iterations of Heist already. People have expectations for it now, and people are also fucking tired of bugs and crashes, and so they're not as willing to explore a system like that and potentially, you know, spend currency and figure something out and maybe fail and then eventually come upon the correct solution to the problem and have a fun process doing that, because they don't want to, because their grand heist crashed and they lost their favorite unique that they wanted to get, or they can't, you know, open a door, and they just don't want to bother anymore, which is a shame, because the system as it currently stands, I've actually been having fun with, and you can min-max your rogues to still get quite a lot of rewards out of Heist, but I don't blame people for just not wanting to bother to put the time in anymore, because, yeah, we've had an exhausting week.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm definitely not talking about the chest types, because that was obviously nerfed, right? Obviously.
Yes.
I'm talking about the number of chests.
Okay.
I get
small
like
chests.
100% of the chests in all of them except for Vinderi, or I miss like 1 or 2 smalls. Sometimes near the start, I skip a couple smalls just to make sure that I'm gonna get there by the end.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you were talking about explicitly the loot from the chest,
sorry, that
not
was
the
a bit
amount of
confusing.
chests that you're clicking. That's where I was
Yeah, no, 'cause I'm definitely getting more than phase 1 now. Like,
Yeah, no, you could-
like the chest rebalance plus the alert on kill was giving us so much of our alert percentage that I was getting like maybe 50-60% of the chests in phase 1. So I'm getting way more stuff now, more chests.
Okay.
Yeah, you just stack like those 3 affixes on your follower gear, and then you just have like a minute plus before your cooldown happens. You can just backtrack and clear out the entire area. I think a lot of people just don't like backtracking in Path of Exile. That's a negative side of it.
Okay, quickly. Fact checking. It's been possible to get 100% of the loot in all iterations. So in iteration 1, if you knew what you were doing with the kiting, you would get 100% of the loot. If you knew how to gear your rogue, you get 100% of the loot. In iteration 1, there is also legacy cloaks, which are being beast split in trade leagues. The cloaks had 14% alert instead of like 5% alert or something. You could get 100% alert reduction. This is why there was also a change in phase 3, which made alert reduction go from additive to multiplicative. If you disagree, because some people are saying I disagree with that statement, then you just weren't doing the system correctly in phase 1. If you did the system correctly in phase 1, you would get every single chest. It was broken the way that you could stack Cast, Nanette, and Tully, because if you just add all of those together, because you just added up their percentages without any gear equipped, you had like 80% alert reduction. So yeah, in phase 1, you could get all the loot. In phase 2, you could get all of the loot without needing any of the gear or any thoughts or leveling up anything. So this sucked for all the people who actually understood how System 1 worked and spent the time and the currency rolling their gear for it. Because there were a lot of people who took the time to gear up their stuff correctly in phase 1, and all of that was wasted with phase 2 because you just get everything without even thinking. Then going into phase 3, you can now get everything in phase 3 if you've geared correctly for it, or you're using your lockdown timer correctly. And now you need to go back to having your characters set up correctly. The main thing they did in phase 3, which was a bit iffy, is they triple nerfed. So they nerfed the alert generation. They made it go from additive to multiplicative, which is a huge nerf. And then they also nerfed the reward loot tables by diluting the pools. 3 is still very profitable, though, if you actually run it and if you actually map it out. And just before this podcast started, I had Grimro send me a huge doc where him and his friends have been going crazy, checking lockpicking and seeing, is it still worth doing? And yes, even from a crazy softcore trade, super min-max point of view, it's still profitable. So if you're saying it's not profitable, you're just talking out of your arse. It isn't as good as 2. It's still very profitable. But yeah.
For the average player, I'd say right now because Grimro is super efficient with this league mechanic. Like, I don't know if you guys don't watch Grimro, every league, they min-max the crap out of the league mechanic and make $1 billion.
Yeah.
But I'd say for the average player right now, where it kind of falls is a regular heist is a bit more profitable than just Alch and Go map. But if you're juicing maps somewhat, you're probably going to get more out of the juice maps. But Grand Heist is still way more profitable than even like reasonably juiced maps, unless you kind of really, really min-max the crap out of that. I think that's where it falls for the average player right now.
The also thing you also need to factor in, sorry, Nugi, is that you don't get XP, and I think that's the big thing which causes the disconnect. So if you're from the point of view of like, right, okay, so I can knock out these contracts, and with a little bit of thought, I'm going to get all the chests, and I'm going to be still printing random 6 links. Like in that 10-hour session I was talking about, I just had 4 6 links just drop, and I came out with loads of currency. You'll still get that, but then you're not getting that character progression alongside it because you're not getting the XP, and because it's so rippy, for a lot of people, they'll actually be losing XP, or in hardcore, they're losing their characters. So I think that's where, for a lot of people, and the fact that Grand Heist is still bugged, like you can still just have your Grand Heist just not work. It's the case of, should I be mapping where I will have less crashes and I'll have a guaranteed experience, or should I heist where if I do it correctly and I use my brain, I will actually make slightly more currency, but there's a risk of me losing my character entirely, or losing XP, or it just bugging and crashing out. I still really enjoy Heist in its current version. My favorite version of Heist, and I had the most fun, was still in version 1, but the reaction to version 3 is exaggerated. Go on, Nugi.
So yeah, XP. I think that you get, so blueprints, you get way more in maps as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So not only are you getting sort of equivalent amount of loot from like mapping from the things, so the tools for running blueprints is you're basically you're just getting less blueprints. You're not getting XP. You're not getting atlas progression. It's like a lot of things you're not getting from running it, which is at a big detriment. I don't even know about the coin. I don't think the markers are enough from the contracts either.
You get more markers juicing maps,
Yeah, which is, I don't know what that's about. That's just silly.
Well, in terms of blueprints and markers, I don't know if you guys have been trying it, but it seems like Delve is actually the best way to gather those resources. On Solo Self-Found, you're limited, but yeah, every single time I have my Delve juice, I get in there and it's a plethora of markers and blueprints and everything. It's amazing. If I was on Trade League, I'd just be doing Delve and Heist all the time. I wouldn't really do maps too much besides getting your soul fight.
So this is actually a huge topic. This is the most, this is the first league ever, I think, that's actually really rewarded side content. It's not just Delve, like any of that side content is pretty good for this. Like you do ad series maps, you get like 3 contracts.
I mean, you do lab,
really good for it.
Fuck's sake, and you get it.
Yeah, I mean, you get them from lab, you get them from everything, like random things in maps, as well as like, so which this has a drawback though, in terms of the way this is like balanced out. This has been something that's really pressing on me, and kind of the biggest thing that I want to see changed actually is the fact that you get more blueprints if you're not heisting. You can get blueprints from Heist, but they're very rare. But if you're juicing maps and doing, Uber at series runs or delving, you're going to get way more blueprints. So I feel like you get less progression in the league mechanic if you engage in it. I think that's way back to front. That's a big problem and very frustrating.
Right now, there's a thing with Templar layouts, which are bunkers and records offices, where they have a safe at the end, or a couple safes, which are really hard to see, by the way. I didn't even know they existed until chat yelled at me that I wasn't clicking on them. And those just drop, like an extra div card, or, maybe here have a chaos order or something, I would love it if instead of having those show up in just a random tile set, or sorry, in the same tile set all the time, they have like a 10% chance to spawn in any contract, and you click that and you get a blueprint, rather than having blueprints be an RNG drop from any old content. Because that feels a lot more thematic. You're doing the heist to get the information on the grand heist, and it also, like, I don't know, it would make for an exciting moment. Oh shit, I got a safe. That means I get a grand blueprint, or a blueprint for a grand heist. Yay, cool. I don't know.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I think you should get contracts from doing side content and mapping. I love that, and rogue markers to fuel that. That's the fuel, right? That's your soul fight, and then you get your blueprints from the actual heists. I think that would be like a progression that would make sense and would be rewarding for people that want to engage in the league. Because right now, if you engage in the league, you're kind of punished because you don't get the good league content.
I think it's okay that you find an occasional blueprint in like
totally,
it's a rare drop. in the open.
Maybe from the boxes that show up in maps, you can get them as an occasional drop. I
Yeah,
don't really
sure.
like them. I don't really like them coming as just a random drop from like Behemoth or, you know, from Delirium Mobs or something, because that encourages you to get the best content for Heist to go and do a double beyond Delirium T16, which is the content you're already encouraged to do because that content is really good and profitable and high XP. Like, I want to be encouraged to do the Heist thing, and this is a reward that doesn't need to go anywhere else. It can be Heist. It can be a reward for doing Heist.
I think the reason why they haven't done it that way is, and Chris spoke about this when Ziggy interviewed him, he was saying how they weren't sure yet if they wanted it, so you would get contracts from contracts. I think they were scared of the idea of someone only doing heists and never leaving it. So that's why they kind of did the whole thing of like, well, you can get grand heists from running contracts, but you can't get contracts from running contracts. They were trying to push people into doing the main game. I completely disagree with that. I think that if someone wants to only do heist, let people only do heist, especially in Heist League, for fuck's sake. Because there's a very big difference between Heist League and then it going core at a later point. Because it's like, if you have the thing with like, but what if I only want to delve? I don't necessarily agree, but I can understand the viewpoint now where they're like, we don't want people to only be delving 24/7. But in Heist League, if I want to just heist, which is what I've been enjoying doing, let me just heist. Yeah.
I mean, you're already punished because you'll never gain a level.
Yeah, exactly. I will never reach level 91. Never level 91. Feels bad, man.
I mean, people even D-level.
Heist in low level is pretty good for leveling. I made like a little alt or whatever, and I was farming low level uniques, and yeah, it was like almost like one level every heist from level 15 all the way up to level 30. I still have this character, right? I was just farming like baited breasts and stuff, some stuff for my CI character, and the uniques were dropping at a fairly high rate. And yeah, and then you could continually do your heists at lower level and level. Well, the downside, you still have to do all side leveling content of the campaign to get your skill points and stuff. So you can't just bypass your leveling if you can get the double back anyways.
Did you see the post where the guy was like, had just gotten to the beach, had done nothing else, and the content was like level 50 through doing heists? It's like, I'm down 20 skill points in the ascendancies, but it's actually leveling 10 game.
So like early game wise, yeah, you could level via heist, but then
it has
some implications of doing that. Yeah,
it has a hard drop. I actually had something similar. I was 15 levels above the act I was in when I was doing my third character, because I was literally just heisting so much on day one, and I had the problem where when I was then just spam buying level 67 heist, I'm like, okay, Tarke, I need to go into maps so I can get my Uber lab, because I'm like 80 something and I haven't done a single trial. I need to fix this.
They should make it so that each heist just gives you a lump sum of XP, so that you can't farm tons and tons of monsters to get it. And if they need to, they should make it so you don't get that lump sum unless you kill a certain number of monsters in the heist, so that people can't just run to the end, grab the thing, come back, and get XP.
That seems odd, though. If you have to kill a lot. No, but the thing is if you're doing a stealthy run, or you're doing are you gonna be punished for being able to
stealth the way out?
No, well, like, because of the doors, but you can kind of scooch around. I mean, the whole idea of the heist is that you can play it either, because I felt like there should be like two options and then everything in between, which is the two extremes, which is the just brute force your way through, kill everything, grab the thing, and just, brute force your way out. Or the more of the, I'm just going to like go through this with limited interaction, get the thing and get out.
I completely...
And I feel like both should be rewarded.
I completely agree with that, but that isn't the league we have. I feel like people need to just drop this stealth bullshit. Because...
But I'm not saying...
No.
But this like requirement of like X amount of things killed. What if it's like, what if you are super tanky and you can actually make it through without killing?
My one concern with having a lump sum of XP was the potential abuse of, in Trade League, buying a ton of high level heists on like some sort of Pathfinder and with like, I don't know.
Is that bad?
Phase run and stuff, and just zooming through and getting more XP per hour than you can through any other content if you do that correctly. Though I guess you still have the doors.
That's so expensive.
Is it expensive to buy high-level Heist?
I mean, it will be expensive when people start doing it, and it's also going to be risky, and you're not getting XP from killing anything. Like, then the XP has to be insane.
Maybe it's fine then.
There's probably already people stockpiling up on the Heist because they know more changes are coming. At least smart trade players would already be buying every single one. That's like, I don't know, 82 or 83. But that's kind of like what people did for Delve. Like when they Delve ran for fossils, they just went from node to node on a quick character. Not really a tanky character.
Yeah.
It could be viable if they made those changes.
Yeah. When I mean the fuck the stealth thing, I really like the idea of like the patrols actually mattering and us sneaking through, and I love the idea of us actually having that. But Heist isn't that, and it's clear.
But that's not what I'm suggesting either.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Is it seems like whenever there's a conversation that comes up on Heist about anything, people keep going back to the trailer and how in the trailer it was like, oh, but in the trailer it was sneaky and this and it was that, and it even like I just think that I even said this when they first showed us trailer. I think that trailer was shit because that trailer gave everyone completely the wrong impression of what the League was, and that's why when people went into the League mechanic,
right,
they were like, wait, the fuck is this? I can't sneak past patrols. I can't do this. I can't do that. My rogue is aggroing everything. It's like everyone keeps talking about sneaking, but I feel like that was just like, it was just like they fucked up their PR. Because that trailer completely misrepresented the League.
I don't think the PR got messed up. I think that there was their original intention, but then they ran into some design flaws and they weren't able to fix it in time, and kind of like their original plan just fell through.
But Chris,
it's like probably all the teaser stuff was done weeks beforehand, and that was probably like the original game plan, and then something happened internally right before release and they weren't able to make that happen.
But Chris even said in the interview right after that like, you don't need to sneak. Like, you really don't have to. Don't worry about it. If you really wanted to, you could try and avoid monsters, but like, you don't have to.
Talking about on the topic of sneaking, after they removed alert levels, what's up with observer totems still? Why do they give you so much alert level? We're not sneaking anymore. And why am I slowing down so much for the damn observer totems to kill them? Like, I hate observer totems. I had a grand heist ruined by an observer totem. I did not see one observer totem, and my bar just got this big.
Get rid of them.
Why did my bar just get this big out of nowhere in like 2 milliseconds? It's freaking huge now. Oh, I can't loot a bunch of chests now. What the hell?
You're all crazy. Observer totems are the best League mechanic ever.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
They're like the Bizarro World alternate reality version of what Heist mechanic maybe should have been, where you have like monsters that see you and then you have to kill them to remove the alert. But instead of monsters that are clearly defined that see you and you have a time frame to kill them, it's totems that you sort of can't see, and you also sometimes can't damage them, and they give you alert like immediately, and you can't kill them before it goes away. And it's just, it's like right idea, very wrong execution.
Yeah.
So to explain what observer totems are quickly, because people are like, what's an observer totem? Any perception mission or any grand heist with a perception thing, there will be at some point observer totems. They're these bullshit totems which are invulnerable until your perception rogue does the magic hand wave, at which point they can now be killed. Then you can kill them. The problem you can have is if you actually know what you're looking for, you will see the totem. And I'm like, there's the totem. And I throw my trap at the totem, and it's fucking invulnerable, but it will still make my alarm bar go up, and I've got to wait for Nanette to be like, hello, totem. So my approach is just to run through it as quickly as fucking possible and pray that I don't get multiple layouts, because it's RNG how they spawn, because you can have some perception heists which will have like 3 clusters of the totems, and you just get fucked. It's just bricked. And yeah,
sometimes you get these maze type rooms and there's like 6 totems scattered, and as you're running through the maze, it ticks once and your bar gets bigger. You're like, I need to move quicker, and you're like, and observer totems need to be balanced or get rid of or something.
There's lots of chests in those rooms too, so if you don't notice them and clicking chests, it's just like alert, alert, alert. They would be all right if there was any counterplay to them, right? Like some sort of, that would be an okay alert game mechanic, as like there's security systems that notice you. If there was like some sort of like field of view thing you could dodge, or if you could send your person to disable them from outside of their range instead of inside of their range. So there just needs to be some counterplay, and it could actually be an okay mechanic then. But
if they're
Right now,
going
very
to
frustrating.
if they're going to mid league implement some counterplay, I really hope it isn't reliant on your NPCs, because good God, do they like to get distracted by fighting a random monster in the corner that doesn't matter?
I mean, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Especially for the ranged
There needs
one.
to be a priority system where whenever it's like something that is a player command, they just drop everything else and they do player command. End of story.
It's like half coded in there, because they
Listen to
will
me.
sometimes, but sometimes they don't.
Yes, I've
And
noticed
also-
that they with the doors sometimes they will do that. Like I don't like they'll teleport, but sometimes they won't teleport. I don't know. It's really weird whether or not, because if you get away from them far enough and then click, you teleport. But if you're like in that in between area, they will sort of like run and then start hitting someone else.
Have you also noticed how Gianna sometimes doesn't even need to be told to open doors? She will just automatically open doors. And
I
it's
love it.
like,
I love that bug.
how can I be in a situation where one of 9 rogues will open doors without me doing anything, yet the same rogue won't open the door when I tell her to, until I've run backwards 4 rooms.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Niles is mentally molesting some poor guard 18 hallways away, and you need to wait for him to finish. Literally, that's what he's doing. He's a mental rapist. And this is a demonetized YouTube video now. I am sorry, YouTube. But, like, you need to wait for him to stop tormenting these poor people. I want him to just pull the lever. Just open the door, mate. If everyone could please donate for the money this video would have made on YouTube, I require about 50 cents. That would cover this cost. Thank you.
Yeah, no, the balancing of the rogue NPCs definitely needs quite a bit of work. It's such a range, like with their interaction speed. Some doors, after you gear up your exiles or your NPC, they open up in 1 or 2 seconds. At other times, your NPC is dancing around. And I don't know if you have this issue. Have you had any problems with agility missions? Like based on the tile set, sometimes like the entrance to the other side of the door will not spawn, and your NPC just runs back and forth at the door confused, and your mission bricked on agility type missions.
I've had 1 or 2 agility missions brick because Cremation is bugged and can sometimes, very rarely, fire a projectile through a closed door.
Yes,
if that happens, if you kill the monster that's manning the lever, and then then the lever can't be pulled.
Exactly.
And Gianna will just like stand there and be all dressed up and say her line, and nobody cares.
There's nobody there.
Have an audience anymore.
There's one thing that can happen with if a patrol walks up. People have told me that randomly one of the patrol guys can go over and open it. That's like your only saving grace.
Have to wait for a random patrol to come past. Now that's a mechanic.
Yep.
I do love the agility missions though, because you don't have to get your companion to do the things. You can just run through the lasers yourself. One flame dash skips the lasers, and then you just stand on the platform. If you guys don't know this, you can stand on the platform that Talina stands on and disable the lasers yourself. So you only have to use it to open the doors, and everything else you can do yourself.
Yeah, it's really, I think that's like a thing that bugs so many things, is that you can interact with a lot of the stuff. Like everything is coded to be like a monster doing something, or a thing being pressed, as if the NPC is acting as you would or a monster would. It's not like hard-coded into a, when this command is sent, sequence starts and it'll always trigger a door opening or something. It is always a condition on something else outside of the NPC that needs to be interacted with.
Mechanically happening in game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we still talking about phase 2, or are we on phase 3 now?
We're on phase 3 now, I guess. Yeah, phase 3. Let's go.
Oh, okay. But I didn't get to finish talking about phase 2.
DatModz, phase 2. Me.
Go ahead.
You guys skipped me. Phase 2 is the most disappointing phase for me.
Yeah.
Yes. And, okay, and it wasn't because of alert removal. Like, hey, you could run through the things. I had the most amount of bugs during phase 2. I don't know what they did. I had less bugs during phase 1s. I had to constantly toggle a loot filter that I was using because I was unable to interact with objects on the ground that I got. So I would get a good item out of the ground. I would get a good item on my heist or my grand heist, right? Actually, it didn't bug out. And then I would have to sit there and toggle between my loot filters, disable it totally. Swap to Never Sing, swap to Fat Hobbits. Oh, I'm finally able to pick up the item. Oh, get to the door to get out. Oh, I can't click the door. I got to disable my loot filter.
No.
And then I don't know what they did, but there's like certain tile sets where if I progressed or running through during phase 2, my character would automatically disconnect. At one point, I got an empower that I needed for my build. It dropped out of the chest. I picked up the empower and my character disconnected. I'm like, oh, this is weird. Okay, let me go back in. I really need this empower, right? And okay, I get right next to empower. I'm about to pick it up, and my game disconnects again. Oh, what's this? What's causing my game to disconnect? And this in the Grand Heist. Like, I really need that empower gem. I'm like, okay, we're gonna turn off our loot filter. I'm gonna turn on Vulcan. I'm gonna like disable sound. I'm like trying to like do stuff, like remedy it. And then I like flame dashed to the empower. I flame dashed away. I'm like, oh yes, I finally got the empower. And then when I moved to like the other tile, the game disconnected. But this is the problem now. Now I blocked my pathing to the rest of the Grand Heist. And my entire Grand Heist is bricked because whatever happened at the tiles, now I can't get past where the empower is blocking, right? If you have the empower, there's basically like there's the room here, there's the room here.
You
I basically brought the empower to my pathing for the rest of my Grand Heist, and it basically just totally bricked my Grand Heist. Yeah, but I had like an immense amount of bugs in phase 2, where basically running Heist and Grand Heist was just unplayable for me. And then phase 3 made it a lot better.
See, I had the best performance in phase 1. My performance got slightly worse in phase 2, and my performance at its worse now. Which goes
you actually have worse performance now?
Way worse. Which goes back to what Ziggy's point was, that he happened to have a really smooth launch, because I had a really smooth launch.
Yeah.
I've had this multiple times with Grand Heist, where I haven't had the Grand Heist bug where you get no portals. That's happened to most people. They just go in, they get no portals. But I've had the thing where I'll go into a wing.
That's my thing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You can say it again, but with a sadder face. My bad. I'm sorry, Niggy. I feel like DatModz ruining an intro. Oh no.
Stole my bug.
You'll be all right, Nugi.
There's
Okay.
plenty.
I'm sure we'll have some more bugs that you can take. But what I had is, so my Grand Heist opened. There was a portal. I go into the wing. I'm like, oh, this is a nice item. Hard crash, like completely like to desktop. I'm like, okay, it's fine. I go into the harbor and I've lost my portal, so it's like it's fine. As long as I constantly spam back to hideout, burning through my coins, I'll eventually get my portal to my Grand Heist back. So like 15 coins later, I've got my portal back. It's fine. We'll just go back into that wing. Every time I open that wing, hard crash the desktop. And then I lose the portal to the Grand Heist. I've then got to go back to bouncing between my hideout to the Rogue Harbor until I get the Rogue Harbor instance, which has my Grand Heist portal. And then eventually I could run the other 2 wings. And I'm just had to set, okay, that wing is just gone. I was then running a contract, and if it had gone correctly, this would have been the best Reddit clip ever, right? So it's a contract. The first chest drops an Exalt. And I'm like, I better leave this instance so I don't DC. Because if you don't know, you can, at any point you can leave the instance, it clears contraband, you can go back in. So I open the chest, I pick up the Exalt, I leave the instance. Within 5 seconds of me re-entering the instance, I crash and I lose the portal.
But you should be able to rejoin it as long as your alert's not going off.
It was like that portal was just like hard, like, no, we're gone. That's just like,
Yeah.
So thankfully I left at the right time and I got to save the Exalt. But I have this thing now that whenever I get something really good, I'll just be saying, please don't crash, please don't crash, please don't crash, please don't crash, please don't crash. And that isn't what you want. And I'm a big fan of the contraband system, and I'm a big fan of this medium core system.
Mm-hmm.
But with the crashes, it is rough. Yeah.
So I had one of those nice moments of the no portal. So basically, I had just run a Grand Heist. It went really well. I got like a pair of Alberons, like the new boots. They're pretty cool. I was like, okay, I'll try and go for some more uniques. I set it up nicely. I get another 3 wing, pay for it with my Gianna things, like, oh shit, yeah, 35% discount. Oh, Delirium as well. Take the Delirium. It's a tunnel. I go in, I look around. There are no way to go down. So I just thought to myself, maybe I forgot to unlock the ladder because it was down to a tunnel. Yeah. And then I haven't run a Grand Heist since. That's basically, I was just at that point because I lost my 3 in there's like 2 or no, I think 2 out of 6 or something that's completely just crashed, right? Because I had like a good little streak and then I was like, I just can't be bothered anymore. I don't want to have this feeling of preparing everything, spending a lot of time on getting my markers and then bricking everything and not even get to engage. It just feels like such a massive waste of time.
This is why people are rioting at the moment, really, because that is like the most possible frustrating thing that can happen. It's like something that you prepare a lot for and put a lot of work into setting up and to get your big payoff. And then, yeah, that's just a non-starter.
And especially on SSF, because there's you only have so many of certain blueprints, right? So that was like the last one of the good ones I had. And I was like, yes, we'll do this one as well. And then we'll go back farming. I'm like, fuck it. When was that? Like 2 days ago? And I haven't run a single heist since. And I'm like, I don't know if I just want to keep re-rolling characters and building up until I don't know if I can. Because I had, after the first day with all the issues I had, I honestly thought to myself after just a few days, am I ending this league early? It's like, that's not good for me, I guess, as a streamer, but I was so frustrated. Like, should I take a time off until like Wednesday, until like a big patch comes out? It was awful. It's just not fun.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that comes down to also like normal heist rewards, like your rogue markers. It takes so long to build up your materials needed and like get your good reveals, because using the expensive reveals, it's painful. On like your high level grand heists, like it is painful. So like you're wanting those discount reveals, like you said, and when your grand heist bugs out after running 50, 60, 100 normal heists to get the markers for it, and it bricks like in the first couple of rooms and you don't get rewards, it really feels bad. You don't feel rewarded at all. And then like also with the change to the normal heist loot, it doesn't really feel like you're just using normal heists to level up your followers right now. Like I don't know about you guys, I haven't been able to get that much good loot in normal heists. You don't get no alternate gems, you don't get any replica uniques, markers, you don't get too many of those. You get a lot of pieces of armor and jewelry and like low level uniques, but I haven't really got like really insane loot.
You still get good
normal
heist.
Currency, and I don't know. I think normal heists are pretty rewarding. I don't, as long as they don't bug out, I think they're fine in terms of reward, especially when you start getting into a good groove and you run them efficiently. Then I think they're good. Yeah.
So maybe it's just RNG based, because I've run almost 250 so far, and I haven't really.
I mean, it could be the type of reward rooms that you run as well, right? It's like we might be looking for different things, so that our experiences might not be the same depending on what our goal with running them is. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of the good loot that I have has come from Heist this league. I have like temple gloves with good rolls on them. I have like a really nice scepter. I have a really nice belt. I have my 6th link. Like any piece of gear on my character that isn't meh is pretty much purely only from Heist, because it has been a lot more rewarding for me in solo self-found. I feel like that colors my like opinion of it as compared to the majority of the population, because I'm not really comparing it to the profit per hour I can make from infested maps. I'm just kind of comparing it to like whether or not I can get those cool shiny things from maps, which I can't really get a temple item from a map consistently, and I'm not going to get Dapper Prodigies unless I'm running Residence. And at this point, I've completed 4 Dapper Prodigy sets running heists, which is amazing for solo self-found. I have my choice of the whatever 6-link base my little heart desires. So it's really, really nice in that regard. I don't know if it holds up in terms of chaos per hour in a trade league situation, though.
No, I'm not really looking at the value of chaos per hour. I was looking at just raw drops from my build. I haven't been getting stuff like that from running 80, 81, 83 grand heists or just normal heists.
I guess I've just been lucky.
Yeah.
I mean,
like the strat I've been doing is the lockdown timer one that you mentioned earlier. So I've been able to open all the little boxes. I honestly ignore the side boxes a lot of the time when they're like, you know, a weapon box or a unique
Mhm.
box or something. I just don't bother with those. The small boxes and consistently opening every small box is how I've been making, you know, useful things for me come out of Heist.
Weapons is
Have you been
actually
able
not bad
to?
though. Just saying.
Have you been
Yeah,
able to
can
get a good trinket
incursions
yet?
stuff.
Yeah, I have a trinket that has I think it's turn augments into regals or something like
Okay.
that. Chance to do that. And then a couple other stats that I don't even remember because they weren't that relevant. So not an amazing one, but it has an effect on currency.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if I was wondering if your trinket had a bigger effect on the loot that you're getting. Maybe my trinkets were just bad.
My experience is pretty similar to Octavian. Nearly every single item I have equipped is from Heist, other than my like perfect Aziri steps, which obviously came from Aziri. I had oh, this is another fun bug I had. So prophecies can brick in heists. So day 1 I had a Deadly Rivalries final chain drop, which is what gives Kintsugi, which is like the endgame chest of my build. So I ripped a day 1 Kintsugi to that and was really fucking angry. And then 2 days later I had 2 more final chain Deadly Rivalries drops. I'm like, oh, it's fine. So I've now got 2, which I'm desperately trying to 6-link, and it's not happening for me. But yeah, I've got 2 incursion weapons. Both came from Heist. I've got incursion, life percent rings, and Ami all came from Heist. Like, all of my good shit has just come directly from Heist, and I've got so many 6-links, it's insane. I'm on, like, because again, it's SSF, I'm not trading or anything. I'm on 298 Chaos, 3 Exalts, and then I'm like, I've never had so many Regals in my life, and I'm just regaling everything. It's like, if I could just throw Regals away at this point, I would still have 100. Like, you just cannot get rid of Regals. So I know I'm a big fan of the rewards this league. Yeah.
My experience has been kind of the same. Most of my good stuff has come from the heists. I mean, I think that's a bit of a product of the fact that I'm mostly heisting compared to regular maps, but certainly when I'm like, sometimes I go like Alka, you know, a tier 10 or whatever and run it, and then I walk out and there's like 1 ult in my inventory, and I'm like, oh, that's all? And then I'm like, yeah, but then when I come back from heist, there's always like a crap load of stuff in my inventory. But yeah, I've like, one thing I noticed was GCPs. Like, I've been getting so many GCPs, I love it. I've 0 to 20 quality like 5 gems
Same.
so far, which I mean, I always do that, and it's always super uneconomical, but I actually can this league without feeling too bad about it, so kind of love that. Another thing I really like is getting 5 and 6 link uniques, just getting random kind of even just random mid-tier uniques that are 6 linked is really exciting and fun. And I'm often like, you get a 6 link fox shade or something like that. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. So I quite like that. I did a lot of deception missions for that reason, because they were the armor ones. I don't know. I haven't compared it now since the patch, but those were really good for just getting a lot of random 5 and 6 links. So it's very generous in that regard, this league, I think. What do you guys think about the end of Grand Heist loots, though?
Hit or miss?
I love 20 chance orbs and 7 alchemy orbs and 7 GCPs.
The trinket.
Yeah, I love doing level 80 plus Grand Heist and getting 20 chance orbs.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it is hit and miss. I've had other times where I get like 6 delirium orb stack, and I'm like, damn.
I'm very happy to do any Grand Heist, because it's really, really easy in Grand Heists to loot everything if you stack Lockdown Timer, because you have 3 rogues coming with you. Even without Isla, you're getting like 1.5 minutes on your Lockdown Timer very easily. So they're consistent loot because I can get everything else. But yeah, it feels kind of crappy when I get to the end of one and it's just like, hey, go have 12 fusings. You're the biggest thief in the world. Best Steely boy.
I don't mind that sometimes it kind of bricks. Like, you really want a trinket, and sometimes there's just not a trinket. You know, but the thing is, you know that you're trying to get one. So it feels good when you get one. Sometimes you can even get 2 to choose from or whatever. And it's like, but if there's not anything good, I mean, the thing is, getting a terrible trinket is the same as finding chance orbs, basically. And that starts happening pretty fast. So I don't mind that there's the option of getting some currency out of it, at least. And you know, you go in there with a chance to break. So it's not like you're not getting cheated out of anything. I mean, it says there, currency or trinkets, you know?
The gem ones are really nice though.
Yeah,
I've gotten a lot of cool gems that I want to build around.
Same.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if I'd feel as happy about it in Trade League. This league mechanic does seem rather solo self-found friendly. Like a lot of the loot is a lot more relevant in solo self-found. Like a sort of nice pair of temple boots or a synthesized item that has like an okay synthesis implicit is it's going to be a lot more interesting in solo self-found.
I love the synthesis drops.
I got a synthesized pair of boots with 4% move speed implicit, and I was really excited.
Oh,
because now I can make like 34% move speed boots without needing eye level 86. Yay!
Oh, have you noticed, like, when you're doing low level heist missions, sometimes you will get item level 86 stuff to drop, and that is kind of cool for like solo self-found. I've gotten quite a few bases just running normal heist. I'm like, oh, what's that sound? You're like, oh, level 86 sword boots. That's nice. Give me those. And you can get your 35 move speed on them, or your best, like all your best rolls. And have you seen the harvest stuff in the heist missions too?
Harvest stuff.
Yeah, there's harvest stuff in heist missions.
How do we mean
What
harvest
is
stuff in this context?
Like Uber Lab.
Oh,
like
yeah, I've heard that.
Oh, you guys haven't
Does
seen
it come
that?
from the fragment
I haven't
box?
gotten that yet.
Yeah, you could get harvest stuff from boxes. Yeah,
that's cool.
Like lenses and stuff like that, and Uber Lab, you can get inside them. Yeah, I got an Uber Lab yesterday.
That's cool.
Yeah, so
That's
you can.
nice.
Oh no, not just implicit jewels, like actual, like stuff that you had to go into your harvest and craft with. Yeah, you could get those from Heist.
People saying wing scarabs as well in chat. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
you get wing scarabs. I did get a wing scarab for strong boxes. It's like what 10 strong boxes from harvest. Yeah.
One question.
I'm surprised that's not a challenge to get all the wing scarabs again. Nice.
Yeah. I didn't notice at first. I was like, went to my fragment tab, and I'm like, why is it not going to my tag? I'm like, oh, it's a wing scarab. I didn't even know you could get that. So yeah, I guess there's like harvest stuff in the heist boxes.
One thing I wanted to ask, since we've all kind of taken in terms of being like, this is great, this is awful, this is great, this is awful. If Phase 3 had fixed the bugs, like if the most recent iteration of Heist had fixed the bugs, what would our overall opinion of the league be? I'm just curious, would we feel like it needs more work, or would we be like, it's good enough?
Buff XP and undo some of the dilution of the rewards. Those would be the changes I'd still want. Other than that, I'm actually okay with it.
I would add to that changing blueprints to drop more from heists comparative to regular content. And then I think I would be pretty happy with it. I still think maybe something else needs to be done with the alert system, though, because the first half of heists in Phase 3 are still non-gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're still pretty boring. The second half is fine and super fun, but first half is like nothing. It's still just clicking chess.
I agree with... Oh, sorry, Nugiyen.
Go on.
No, you go, sir. Nope, you go first.
No, you go.
Okay, so I think that there is something with the way. Okay, so first on going in, the actions you take going in should kind of affect the actions going out in terms of like spawning a big dog, for instance, right? You can alert something picking up a certain chest. A big dog will then start coming in when you start going out, right? So, and on that, going out is, I think it's a mess, still a mess. I think it's, the whole stacking auras is a clusterfuck. It's the same problem as with Legion, with Fizz aura, Haste aura, powerful crit aura, all these like aura stacking. It's less of a problem now, but I think the way they designed that whole thing was not very good. I think they should have been more meticulous with crafting all the different events and have more of them, more handcrafted events, rather these like random, just throw a lot of rares in there and they'll just take care of the randomness so that we have this procedurally generated content. But it just doesn't work very well in the way that they constructed it. I think the way you open the door and have to shoot through, I think it should have been opposite, so that the guard should have been in front of the door or something, not behind it. Because imagine playing a freeze pulse build or any other build that needs to shoot through the door. It's fucking awful. They make it so that it's like impossible to play certain builds and go through in any meaningful way other than just kind of YOLO it. That kind of annoys me as well. So I feel like they're making the content not fit the game that they've created in a lot of cases. So that kind of annoys me. Would I have been fine with it if it was just phase 3 and no bugs? Yeah, but it would have been like a 7 out of 10. But it could have been a 9 out of 10 with all the way up to a 10 out of 10 with a properly crafted, a design fighting system going in and out.
So I think, yeah, I like the most recent patch where they did stuff. I'm still having like a decent amount of bugs. But yeah, I agree with most of what you guys are saying. I wish like you'd get more markers or like consistent rewards from normal heists, balance out grand heists, maybe like scale mob density. So there's like, it's really weird, like your different heist missions. Sometimes when you're escaping or going in, there'll be a lot more density. Other ones, it's just empty. You're just running through empty rooms still. So I think they need to rebalance mob density and then probably look at experience rewards when completing your heist. So you don't really feel like you want you to see your character progress, not just gear wise while you're doing these missions.
Also, this is a more extreme change that I doubt would ever actually happen in the course of the league. I mean, I guess extreme is a bit of a strong word. It's a bigger change than the ones I suggested earlier. But on the way in, take out all of the doors where the NPC has to do something except for the last door and any side doors. Because just waiting for Gianna to do her deception thing at a random door in the middle of a heist doesn't add value to the heist.
That actually makes sense. I
On
don't.
the way out, it does add some value because they have this
Exactly.
mechanic of, there's the wall of monsters behind the doors, so you have to set up and prepare, and you have you have the tension of there's going to be combat in 3 seconds.
Yes.
But on the way in, you have the tension of nothing.
It also makes setting up your lockdown more frustrating because on the way in, it's like, I now need to go ahead to unlock everything so I can now backtrack. To go there and then backtrack again.
And then there's still a reason you're bringing the guy along because they have to open the big secure door at the end and they have to open any side doors securing extra loot, but there's like, you don't need the ones in the middle. They don't do anything.
Yeah. Octavian, I love that idea.
You don't like backtracking a bunch when you first go on a heist, like making sure all your doors are open constantly before you start grabbing chests?
No.
Yeah, no, I don't really enjoy it either.
I mean, I actually kind of enjoy the planning out of like, I'm going to go this route and get these chests, but no, I don't like the opening an extra door or two for no reason.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much what it is right now. You just run through the entire heist, open up every door, and you stack like the alert gear and you just open up everything at one go.
I'm curious what you guys think of this. This is something I've spoken to Octavian about a little bit. I mentioned in my latest video, you probably haven't seen it. I think my small change that I think would make the league feel a lot better and would definitely feel a lot better with the thing that Octavian just suggested, if they redistributed the layout of the chests. So rather than having the chests evenly distributed through the instance, instead have like 7% of the chests spawn towards the end. Because that way you're way more encouraged to actually use lockdown. Because it's like a mad dash in that last little timer. And that would also remove the issue that some people have now, where they use like 80% of their alert bar in the first like 1/8 of a zone. Because when you sometimes just get those really long heists, and you just know that you're not going to get to use all the side stuff. Whereas if they didn't remove the loot, but they just stacked more of the loot towards the end, you'd still get the same amount of loot, and it would reward the people who want to use lockdown. And they wouldn't have to rebalance anything, you just push it more towards the end. And it also makes more sense, because if I've got a massive vault, I'm not going to put my most valuable stuff by the front door. I'm going to put it at the back. So.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do this week, though. They just announced that they're looking at everyone's reviews right now. So I'm excited to see if they're going to put out a community patch. But I know Bex is on vacation, so I wonder who's going to be doing all that. I guess there's quite a bit of other community people.
They've got a large team.
Yeah.
They've got people who cover that stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously they put that patch up because they knew they were just starting Baeclast. Because if you ever watch Reddit, 90% of any decision GGG makes is influenced by the 0.1% of Baeclast. So they were waiting. Everything we've suggested is being directly implemented into the game because that's how it works, right? While we're telling GGG what to do, can we also please make the Rogue Harbor a solo zone? Because I'm sick of people's dragons and horses and stupid. When they made,
I like it.
when they made the horsey box, I said, "Why are these horses here, and why are they so large?" But it completely ruins the whole vibe of like, we've got this cool little harbor, and we're talking to these people, and there's just this giant neighing thing, and there's these apparitions going, "Ooh, spooky ghost!" And when there's 50 dudes just going, just making weird noises, and you can't hear anything, and there are these poor bastards playing on their toasters with like 2 FPS, and it's just
I thought the entire point of making Rogue Harbor not your own personal instance is to sell more MTX. So when you do go in there, I'm pretty sure they got like an algorithm where if you don't have any MTX, they put you in a Rogue Harbor with some dude that had just pimped out and looks like a glowing alien. So you're in there and you're naked and you got like 2 little sticks and you got your weird ass bucket helmet on. And you're just like, I'm so happy. I love this game. You see this guy with the fucking dragon, you're like, holy fucking shit. I feel so inadequate right now.
That's not actually a thing in shooters or something.
That's when you hover over them and see that, you know, they're only level 50 and you're level 90, and then you don't feel as bad anymore.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have like an algorithm where it puts you into Rogue Harbor with people with better MTX than you.
And if that's the case, I just want to say I've spent enough money on this fucking game that give me the pleb instance. I'm fine with the pleb instance, but I'm sick of seeing all these neon Power Rangers.
You'll be the neon Power Ranger to bait everyone else into buying MTX.
You do need to pay to go to the Rogue Harbor. It fits thematically.
I hate
1 coin.
I hate it.
No, I'm sure they would have made Rogue Harbor an individual instance, but they probably did a bunch of research and they're like, we'll probably make more money putting all of these plebs around people with a bunch of MTX.
Because it also,
I mean, we don't spend much time in town anymore, and that was the idea, was like you'd see people in town, so we don't really spend much time in town at all now that we have hideouts, so it kind of makes sense.
I mean, it does, but it doesn't, because a lot of the issues we're having is because it's a public instance as well. Like, there was there was the whole bug at the start, obviously, with Collision, but that got fixed. And the reason why you lose access to your portals is because you're being kicked into instances because your previous instance was full.
And I mean, that problem would be solved if it were just a regular waypoint instead of a coin, because then you could just control click on the waypoint. Yeah. So like, even Heist feels cursed. Even the littlest seemingly inconsequential decisions are leading to problems. Like, oh, it's flavorful. You use a coin to go there. Well, that means you have to spam this annoying coin thing to be able to get back to the instance you need to be in.
That's just the sort of thing like they could never predict when they're making it.
I don't blame them for that. It feels cursed.
Can they?
Yeah. I mean, how would you know? How would you predict that?
I would predict that. I don't want to be that guy.
Okay, sure.
Well, no, but like, have you never had that issue with trying to get into the same zone or instance as someone as a friend? Have you in like any MMO? Like, have you played WoW when they introduced sharding? And it's like, hey guys, we're on the wrong shard. How do we get onto the same shard? Oh, we can't. It's like, there are a lot of things that's happened in games where it's kind of like, if you've played enough of different online games, some of the things you should just know. The body blocking thing, I think, is excusable because that was a bug. They never intended for there to be collision. So that's kind of like fine. But the instance thing, and the fact that you can't control click instances, that is a guaranteed problem point that someone should have picked up. Yeah. But I'm still salty about the way they did sharding in World of Warcraft. For the people who weren't blessed to enjoy that game, basically they introduced this system where they were going to have all the cross realms merged, and you could have a situation where you could see like a chest in the distance. You're like, I'm going to open that chest. And as you walk over to the chest, you would get kicked off of that realm and pushed onto another realm. And the chest would disappear. Gone. But then if you walked backwards 5 steps, the chest would reappear. And then you would have a situation where, because that game has world PvP, someone would be trying to kill you, and then they would step backwards and disappear. And then you started having issues of what you could do is, if you were intelligent and you planned out your mob farming, you could kill 20 mobs, step to the left, and the 20 mobs would respawn. Kill 20 mobs, step to the right, they would respawn. And you just sidestep like this, instantly farming mobs forever. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, talking about the Rogue Harbor, you do realize, I guess a lot of people don't realize this, but there's a locker where you could access your Rogue Harbor materials and put your heists in the tab without actually going to your Rogue Harbor. It's for free and it's in your decorations tab. So in your hideout, go to your decorations tab. There's a locker for your stuff and you don't have to go to the Rogue Harbor.
So you just search heist, right, in there? And it'll find the stuff.
You just search heist. Yeah. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I have all my coins at the Rogue Harbor. I can't get to the Rogue Harbor. I'm like, why don't you just access your box from your hideout? They're like, I have to go do a map and get coins first. I'm like, no, dude,
just people going,
just put the heist locker in your hideout. Just put the heist locker in your hideout and you can access all your blueprints, everything from your hideout.
You have to do the tutorial heist that they give you after you talk to all the NPCs to unlock that, by the way. So if you don't have it in your decorations, do the little random tutorial blueprint they give you, or heist contract.
Yeah, it's called the heist locker. So go to your decorations tab in your hideout, type heist locker, or just type heist, put the locker in your hideout, and you could put your coins and your blueprints, everything there from your hideout. You don't have to actually go to your Rogue Harbor every time. Yeah. Honestly, on League Start, they should just put it in your hideout, right? So you don't have to go looking for it. It should right as soon as you go out of your waypoint, right? First time you enter your hideout, when the League starts, there should just be this new object there, and it's a League object, right?
And if they can't put it as a League object, they should just have it as like a permanent thing you have to pick out and place somewhere until it's gone whenever you enter your hideout.
Yeah.
And then you can decide something like that.
Yeah, the decorations tab thing for your hideout is kind of like it's hidden now, right? You have to press the arrow to expand it. So it's not like there in your face anymore. They kind of hid it to make your hideout feel a little more personal. But in doing so, people don't click the thing to look for the new League mechanic boxes and storage units.
Briefly, since we talk about hideouts, small baby rant that like 4 people in chat will relate to. When you're in editing mode, there's a giant fucking editing banner that you can't get rid of that just fills the bottom of the screen, which makes planning your hideout really awkward because they've just said, we're just going to randomly block off a part of your screen. And yeah, anyone who's like into hideout decoration hates that stuff.
You need to know that you're editing, though.
You know how you're editing because you're in the grid mode. It's just like, yeah, it's wank. It's wank. So
what's our next topic?
We've kind of said what we feel about it. We've kind of gone on about that. So, without getting to Reddit, how do we feel about the community reaction to Heist?
I think it's acceptable. I think the community is rightfully. I think they're allowed to be angry. They're allowed to be disappointed. But the one thing I see a lot of people confused about, just because you're not happy with the current state of a league doesn't mean you don't like the game. You're allowed to have constructive feedback. You're allowed to be judgmental of a game, but you're also still allowed to like the game. Just because you're talking about the negatives of the league, it's not out of hatred. It's because it's out of love for the game, and you want it to do better. You want them to have better league retention. You want to see the player base and community grow, thus allowing the leagues to be larger, them hiring more employees, right? But just because you're citing the negatives about the league and you're looking to make improvements to it doesn't mean you hate the league. It's because you love the game. And I see a lot of people, as soon as you say something out of criticism towards it, they're like, stop being a whiner, boomer. Go back into your lawn chair. But like, the reason why you're saying something about the game and you're speaking out and you're using your community to voice your opinion and try to make changes, it's because you want it to be better, not because you hate it, right? And that's what I don't like. Whenever you try to talk about your disappointments or like things that you don't like with the league, people just tell you to stop whining. But you're not whining to whine. You're whining out of love for the game. We wouldn't be here if we didn't like playing the game, right? Yeah. And we didn't want it to do better.
I would also say the reverse of that is very true. Sorry, Mickey. I think it's really important as well. Like we had the best example of this where Ziggy just said, he didn't even be like, this is the best Ziggy. He just said, I didn't have any bugs day one, and people were in his throat in chat. One of the things which has been most frustrating about this league, and I've experienced this from multiple points of view because I've done like 3 really in-depth feedback videos now. I've been like positive, critical, if someone likes something you don't like, their opinion is people are still allowed to have their own opinion, and it doesn't mean they're being a shill, it doesn't mean they're being a cark or whatever. It's just like they might just genuinely enjoy an aspect of Path of Exile that you don't enjoy. Like, I can completely understand the people who are like, this is PoE, I only want to kill monsters, any League mechanic which isn't just killing monsters is bad. But some people like the fact that Heist, especially in its original iteration, was different. And that was what they enjoyed about it. It was a different experience and it felt unique. So yeah, people are allowed to like things as much the same way people are allowed to dislike. But yeah, who else? Go for it.
It's almost if games are made for people with different interests and not just one play style.
Wait, Path of Exile isn't just one player? I'm confused. What do you mean?
Most confused, angry, self-loathing
monster.
player.
I smash, only kill, no talkie.
Wait, were you doing an Alk impression there?
What?
Wow.
What do you mean
No, I
you're
would
smashing
never.
stuff? Wait, you don't like his Earth Shatter build?
What? That's great. Great build. I think I like his Earth Shatter build more than he does.
Yeah, no, it's a fun build, yeah.
Can I read you one of my favorite YouTube comments I've ever had? It was so good I even tweeted it out. This was in response to... It was the video I made on Phase 2 when I said it was less fun, because now we're just clicking chess mindlessly. And I had this amazing comment. This is a slashing mobs boom boom game. Changes all make sense. We shouldn't be thinking a lot of strategies in gearing stuff. If you are more into these, go play Tomb Raider or something. And that was my favorite thing about all of that, because not only is it dumb, but his idea of a thinking man's game, Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
If you want to think, if you want the strategy, if you want the in-depth gearing, go play Tomb Raider, Tarke. So, okay.
I have the same feeling with Heist as I've had with a few other leagues in the past, and that's that I really want to see what Heist would have been like if it was just like released as it is now, or released as it is on next patch, since I do still have some problems with how it is now. You know, like I just want to see leagues start a week in. It is exhausting at this point. And I guess I can't really fault the general exhaustion in the community with that trend. I think that some of the feedback has been a little over the top and vitriolic in places, but it's hard not to go to those extremes, particularly with the frustrations of crashes and losing grand heists. And like, I actually think that Heist would be like a fairly tepid response, maybe at worst, from the community, if it weren't for the absolute plethora of crashes and lost grand heists and lost contracts and stuff. Like, I think the problems with the mechanic as it is, like functionally, are being magnified by that frustration.
I remember so within the first like hour or two of the league, people in my chat were literally just so excited. There was nothing but this is the greatest league ever. Like every like 1-2 minutes, like this is the greatest league. This thing is amazing. This content is amazing. A few more hours go, and it just goes reverse as people starting to crash. And like it was kind of sad to see like how it just kind of like reverted, like slowly over the day, to just becoming like everyone was just so annoyed by all the bugs and crashes from starting out as something that would just seem so exciting.
What do you think the solution though? Because it kind of just seems like we're in this perpetual cycle of the release states of the league constantly being the same. But like the 1 to 2 weeks is constantly like a beta, right? There's like so many balance problems. There's over tuning. Outside of the league mechanic, what do you think the solution is? Like a public beta or something, like allow more people to get their hands on it? But is there even time, right? Because
I think a public
like,
beta
like
wouldn't be.
Well, I'd also really like. I'd really like to see a Heist that wasn't impacted by the like strained development schedule of having to work from home and then not, and then work from home
Yes.
and not. So that probably impacted it. Like, it doesn't excuse it entirely, but I think that also played a big role. So I don't know if we can use this as a template for how like leagues are going to look going forwards, because that won't be a factor anymore. But I still do think maybe they could scale back the ambition of some of the mechanics. As much as I love how much depth and character and flavor there is to Heist and how complex it is, maybe scale it back by 20% if you need to, in order to get out a league that doesn't like poison people's opinions through dozens and dozens of crashes.
I think we should not just make this another. I think especially now, I think it's. I know we want to give them a little bit of a I don't know, a little bit of an like ease up on the middle because of Corona, but look at from Synthesis until now. It was like, what was it? Synthesis, Legion, Blight. I mean, Legion was terrible for some people. Blight was like, the maps were like, you couldn't play them. Synthesis was a god-awful mess. Metamorph was all right, but the bosses were like a terrible mess. Delirium.
Delve was bad initially.
I'm just talking about the cycle up until like now.
Yeah.
Like how there's been like a big issue all the way up until now with no Corona. And so I don't really want to start laying off them now, because I think it's as important now as ever to kind of, you know, this is not good.
I think one thing which is, so I made a video about this, and this isn't excusing anything, because this is an issue that they need to work out. But we've had serious issues with every league from, I agree, Synthesis. So we then had Legion. Legion was received fairly well. There was some technical issues, but that was generally a pretty well received league, and there was some overtuned monsters of that. I would say that's probably been one of their more polished leagues, except for some.
I would say so too. Yes.
So we then had Blight. Blight technically was a bit of a mess, and it was missing significant endgame content. And ExileCon was the reality of that, because that was the league leading into ExileCon.
Right.
But that is something still that they themselves put themselves in that position. Metamorph had the same problem, where its entire endgame was cut off because that was the first league off the back of ExileCon. So it's kind of like, okay, it sucks, but I'll give you a pass. But that's just the reality of it. We shouldn't excuse it. That's the position. Whatever, right? So then from that, they then went into Delirium. And then Delirium, I would say, is the most recent equivalent of Legion, where it was Delirium. They had the gray on gray dumb stuff. But in terms of a league, it was actually in a pretty good state for launch. It wasn't that buggy for most people. Delirium was in like a pretty good state. It was mostly just the visual mess, because there was very big visual mess. So then from that, we went into Harvest, which was their first league in lockdown, and that didn't go well. It was a very underdeveloped league. The only thing that came out of Harvest positively was the people who liked the crafting, but the league itself was very under-fleshed out. Like, it wasn't fleshed out at all. The systems were clearly just a problem, and it was full of bugs at the start. So then they come out of lockdown, and because Heist was meant to come out when Harvested, they actually were like, no, we're going to cook Heist more, because we've got this cool ambition. So that's when we had Harvest. So what they should have done, and I can't say this, but I'll say what they should have done, it's not my place, but like what they could have, is they could have gone, okay, so Corona is a reality, lockdown happened, New Zealand's now got like 0 cases, but lockdown might happen again, we need to prepare for this. And they didn't. So then when they got put back into lockdown, they got completely screwed. Their productivity tanked. If you remember, Heist was actually meant to release a week early because their schedule got knocked off. They made a post about how they wanted to maybe change the release date of Heist, but then in the end they put it at the normal thing. So we've now ended up in the situation we're in now. What I'm really hoping they do at this point is go, okay, so this isn't going anywhere. Like, this is the reality for the next year at least. Corona is a thing, and they invest into, even if they need to hire in consultants or whatever, to establish a proper HR, and they can get a serious remote workforce in position. Because the thing which a lot of people don't understand, I've had this exact same conversation on stream so many times, you've been to their office as well, Nugi. You've seen the way their layout works. It's this huge
Sure.
open thing. There's no cubicles. It's like you're at a desk. You need to ask someone a question. You turn. They are there in front of you. All of their communication, the entire way they work is just... So if they want to keep making leagues of this like ambition level, they need to completely reestablish how they work remotely. And they also need to probably pull back on PoE2 development, because not only are they trying to work out the leagues in a lockdown variant, they're still trying to work on PoE2. And even if there wasn't a Corona thing, I don't think you could realistically make leagues as ambitious as Heist for the next 2 years and be able to release PoE2, because it just...
And PoE2 got delayed a bunch also, which I guess a lot of people don't understand.
Well,
People are still under the impression it's coming out in 2021.
Fuck no.
Based off what XLCon said, yeah.
I know soonest, the absolute soonest is December 2022, and that's ambitious as all hell. And whenever I say that, people are like, Tarke, that's ridiculous. The soonest is December 2022.
So Diablo 4 and PoE2 might come out at the same exact time.
Diablo 4 is like 2025.
Yeah. We'll see. You never know.
I just want the reason why I don't want to let up on them like right now. I think it's important to give them like real criticism here, because otherwise we're just gonna have the next league, and then you're just gonna say, oh, but they were pushed back. It's Christmas. They have to release something big and PoE2, and now that's the excuse. And then there's gonna be the next thing, and they're gonna have this next thing they want to do. Whereas like they have this big ambition coming soon. So therefore, this league cannot be as good because the next thing that is coming soon.
Well, it's...
And you can't keep saying that, you know, because if you keep trailing, when is it then going to change? Because then...
I think it's fine to pull back on the scope and scale of the league, if that's what you mean by as good, so long as that means that they're able to polish it to the point where it's not this god-awful buggy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I don't think that they should do another Heist scale league next, and I don't think they can. I think they should do, you know, like a Legion or a Delirium. You know, maybe not exactly that kind of mechanic, but something relatively smaller in scope, so they can actually get it out the door and have it roll well to everybody.
Do you even think the next league is going to be something that's large in scope? I don't think so. I think it's going to be small, because we have all these new big titles coming out too that are very hyped up.
Also, 2 things quickly. I want to go back to something you said about PTR as well. Another reason why they're in an awkward situation with Heist, because I've seen a lot of people saying, well, why didn't they just delay Heist? And then you mentioned Christmas, Nugi. They kind of had to push this when they did, because if they delayed this league, that means the next league would be launching at Christmas.
And I get that. The thing is, I'm not going to sit here and tell them how to do things. What I can say is that I don't find it acceptable. And whenever I communicate to my community, I can't tell them in good faith that they should take time off to the next league. Because if this becomes a trend, then I will say you should probably wait 1 or 2 leagues. But the thing is, the negative spiral that starts happening then is that you won't have these like very energetic league launches, because people are going to be spread out. I have a good size of friends who they will all take time off from work, and they have like very busy schedules and kids and everything, and they will then come together, 5 to 10 people with a LAN party, and they will all play. But if they get their weekend ruined, that sucks so bad, and they won't do it again, because there are other games out there that can offer them the same bonding experience over a game over a weekend.
That's completely true. And I'm not, just to clarify, like, because I agree with you entirely, and this is why I'm saying, like, the issue is GGG's ambition, because they're in, like, the reality is they're in this incredibly scuffed position, and they're still trying to do PoE2 at the same time. So they need to seriously just be way less ambitious of what they're trying to put out, because they're now in a situation where, you know, Chris has spoken about this before, he likes letting people have time off for Christmas and everything. So they couldn't have delayed Heist. They had to ship it when they did, because otherwise they would have people work over Christmas, which they don't want to do. But then they should have accepted, okay, Heist isn't the league. Like, I love this league. If it wasn't for if I wasn't a content creator, I didn't have to do the whininess of having to defend what I like and don't like. This would be my favorite league by far. I love Heist. I absolutely adore it. But yeah, the ambition of it, the scope of it, just completely doesn't mesh up. There's also the thing briefly, if you think about the amount of rewards you normally get from a league. So like Delirium Cluster Jewels was like the big reward. For this league, they did alternate gems, which is 800 gems. They did replica uniques, which is like, they could have just done replica uniques. They did enchants. They then introduced trinkets. There's a follower system. Like, there are so many levels of rewards. That like, we only needed one of these. They just got way too overambitious. The reason why a PTR would never work in this game is technically, like, ignoring the hype killing, they have the issue of pushing out builds. They already have they already have problems with their test servers in Office are ahead of the alpha test servers and all that other stuff. So then if you've got a PTR like with their insane like 3-month schedule, they would be dropping like a PTR like a week before launch. And like the build would instantly be out of sync. It would be like, it just wouldn't work. For a PTR,
even if they sorted that out, a PTR is a bad idea, because what we'd end up playing, all of us who are here podcasting and watching a podcast, we would all play the PTR, which would be a worse version of the league. So we would be downgrading our Path of Exile experience. And then by the time the league came out, you've already played it. And it was not a very good experience. A lot of people have already quit and, given their kind of feedback on that. The eventual launch version might be better, but the version we all play of Path of Exile would be worse. So we'd end up playing worse league launches. So it'd be like saying, just launch a week earlier, a worse experience, and we'll have an extra week to fix it. That's basically what it would be.
Yeah, but I think the thing is right now, we're going through this cycle, even post-COVID, before COVID even happened, we're having the same tendency of the states of the league launches. So something has to be done. They just can't keep on doing the same thing and expect a different result. Because we just keep on having the same level of bugginess. So they're going to have to explore different options. And that other option might be maybe try like a PTR 1 week early, see what happens, see if like larger feedback instead of just their internal testing helps the release candidate of the league. They just can't keep on doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Right? Like they're going to have to try something different at least one time and see what happens. You just shouldn't discount it. The only downside of having PTR, it kills the league hype, right? And their advertising and everything else.
I do completely agree with you. And like they do have like alpha testing, which is PTR on a very small scale. But I think like I agree exactly what you're saying, but I think the thing they need to change is their ambition and their project management, because that's where the failing is, because they're trying to do too much in too little time, and if they were trying to do less in less time, it'd be more achievable. And I think
if I had one thing
go on.
that I've suggested before, if I would have to have like a little dream that I could push on, I would say try, and I would really like them finally to do like, and especially with Heist coming out now, Heist 2 or Breach 2, or like go back and take a league and just make it better. That is something I would love to see.
It has worked for Magic. I mean, the return to previous mechanics and themes has been pretty popular with the Magic community, because it's like, yo, I played that when I was a kid. That's basically what Pee-wee's been out long enough now that some people will be like, I played Breach when I was a kid. I can't wait to play Breach too. It'll be so nostalgic.
People will tell all the good stories, and there's all this stuff already done, and they can add to it and make it better. Because I remember we mentioned this to Chris before, and he's always been kind of like a bit what's it called?
Hesitant.
He's always because they always want to push something new, something exciting. But if the product they're launching is not up to the standard that they've set before, I have to wonder whether or not it's worth it. Is this influx of this new type of player worth the risk of a banned launch and the bad, first experience? I don't know.
We asked him, because we've asked him this before on Baeclast, he said, and I don't agree with it, but this is what he said. He said the issue with that is if you have players who didn't like the initial league, they'll just be like, oh, but I hated Breach. I don't want Breach 2, and they'll quit. And that was like he said that. He was like, there'd be people who wouldn't even try the league because they didn't like the base version of it.
I think the portion of your community you lose from that is smaller than the portion that you would retain if it meant that you could have a smoother launch than the more recent launches.
Yeah, and this is literally just me parroting things he said on this podcast because we've asked him this exact question before, and he said it's not something that we're against, and if you look at it, technically Legion was Breach 2.0. So it's like, it's not that we're not reinventing old leagues, but we, instead of saying 2.0, we try and hide the formula slightly or twist it a little bit. One thing I wanted to ask you, DatModz, because obviously you spent a very long time with Diablo, and Diablo had the whole PTR thing going. How well do you feel like that worked? And obviously keep in mind that with Diablo, it's like fucking one new patch a year, and it's like a new colored skin, you know. It's
yeah,
like,
previously back in the day, when Diablo ran PTRs before they kind of like stopped supporting it, you caught a lot of league breaking stuff that would have killed the league on league launch, like when season started. So the PTRs definitely helped Diablo back in the day. There's a lot of like exploits and balancing issues that were caught, and like new mechanics that were integrated that they removed or rebalanced before. But yeah, the problem with D3 is they just stopped supporting. But no, the PTRs did help, and the seasons in D3 at the time, they were still really hyped up for like the original like first like 1 through 7 seasons of Diablo 3. But yeah, no, I think the PTRs did have a positive influence on the league and balancing. Yeah.
Do you think that would work? Because obviously with Diablo, it was just like ladder reset and like one new mechanic. Do you think you could have something like that with PB, where each league is so different?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know until they try it. Yeah, I don't think anyone knows. But at this point, right, based off people's feedback, I don't think one time trying a PTR and people that are willing to help with balancing and feedback going in there and helping them tune things up more tightly. Because a lot of the starting problems with Heist, if you had 1,000 people, 2,000 people, 5,000 people playing, they could have been caught right away. Right. And then the only problem is, did they have enough time to change or make changes before they had to launch the league? Right. That's the only thing we don't know, right? Because we're not like on the inside. Did the QA people report all these problems, but then they decided not to put these problems as high value, and then they just shipped the product regardless? And they said, oh, we'll just fix that in week 1 and deliver hot fixes for it.
Yeah, that's an important point to make, because you get a lot of the, do they not even have QA? Because it's like, you can have a list as long as your fucking arm of like, this is shit we need to fix, but this is the date, we'll try and fix it when. I think one thing which is quite interesting, as far as I'm aware, I've been trying to think, this is the first league we've ever had that has launched incomplete, in the sense that at some point in the coming weeks, we're going to be getting, because there's bosses missing, like you can't complete your challenges because we're missing end game encounters. And
I would say that that's not quite accurate. This is the first league we've ever had launched that is going to have its content added after launch instead of just forgotten about. Because so many of the leagues actually had another layer of content which just didn't make it in time, and they didn't actually add it. But this time they are. I mean, there was, I think, way back when, like warbands, I think, had content added after release. Like they added the Chaos Warband, I think, wasn't it at launch?
Yeah, God, that was a long time ago. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So first time in a long time.
Like, I remember Chris, when he was talking about this league, he was talking about like the bosses and Heist. Have you guys seen like any big boss encounters yet? I know they said they'll be introducing them, but I've seen like unique mobs and stuff. And I know there's unique Heist maps. I haven't found one yet though.
Yeah, I haven't found one.
I don't think they exist yet, do they? Like the
Waggle did one.
Wasn't the Cortex or not the synthesis thing? Wasn't there a replica version of that one?
There's a replica Cortex. Which is where you get replica Nebulous. But there are unique contracts that Waggle died to, when you can watch on his YouTube. I purposely didn't watch it because I wanted to experience it myself on stream. But yeah.
Okay, so there's a series of unique maps, and some of them exist in game right now, and they're adding the rest. Is basically okay. Cool. I've been wanting to get a bit of a summary of what the idea is, though, because it's been a bit confusing and unclear what they're doing.
Apparently, Steel did one yesterday as well. But yeah, in the unique Heist maps, they are bosses. So there's more stuff.
I just haven't found one yet. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm sad that the big Robo Doggy doesn't actually like do anything.
Yeah.
He just kind of walks around and lets you kill him, and then all's over.
I mean, that's Path of Exile in a nutshell, isn't it? Giant dog with laser beams does 0 damage. Meanwhile, you die to a random... Do you see Garitha's ripped the rinky-dink green orb that he stood on for half a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing to look out for. The rinky-dink orb.
Yeah.
Not the big dog, not the great dog.
No. Not the great
No,
boy.
no.
Yeah.
That's usually what kills you in Path of Exile. It's not the giant scary stuff. It's little pebbles that you can barely see. Little Legos on the ground. You step on a Lego and character dies.
I
Die of an
mean,
infection from a rock or something.
for a long time with old pathing, it would be literally a little pebble in the ground that you couldn't see that would kill you because you just stop mid shield charge. You're like, uh-oh. Yeah. Closing thoughts on Heist. What's everyone's like? If you had to just kind of summarize your thoughts on the league and your experience 1 week in.
I like the league idea. I'm excited to do Heist. I just think it was poorly implemented.
Yeah.
I think it's going to just be one of those leagues where probably in week 3 it'll be really good. But until then, we're kind of just getting patches, patch, fix. Okay, it's getting better. Oh, that didn't work too good. Okay, we'll revert that. But yeah, I like the mechanic. They just need to redo reward structure a little bit and work on like alert levels, NPC interactions with stuff. Some NPCs take 10, 15 seconds. Some take 1 second. But yeah, and I think once they smooth stuff out, it'll be good. They just need to fix all the problems. Yeah. And the
Very
bugs.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, just fix all the problems. It'll be fine then.
There's just so much potential in this league.
Yeah.
There's so much. Like between all the new builds we can make, I'm theory crafting like 2 builds a day already. I'm gonna make most of them. It's just between all the alternate gems and the new uniques and everything, they have so much content in that. And then the actual heisting, can I just say on a positive note, the voice acting has been A tier. And the interactions between all the characters, I love it.
So good.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Just fix the rest of the game. Please.
I feel like for a majority of players, though, they don't really care about stuff like that. They'll notice if it's bad, but if it's good, like you said, okay, it's all right. Most people just care about gameplay, though.
I would say the opposite.
Like having good voice acting is good, but it's not the end all.
I would say the actual majority of players who just log in, they don't interact with the side content. They live for this shit. The people who are on the forums, on the Reddits, in the YouTube comments, the people who are like more likely to actually engage and try and get better builds, those guys are more just like, I just want to kill loot. Kill mobs, get loot.
The voice acting and the really good design of the town and the layouts of the zones and the cool art and all that is the icing on the cake. And I don't want to eat a cake without icing. It's delicious, but I also don't want to eat just straight icing. Like, give me a cake that's well baked, please. That is the more important thing, but I don't want one without the other. I want, I like the voice acting. I don't think it's like detrimental to some degree, especially because the people who are working on making really good writing and having the really good voice actors and all of that those aren't the people who are designing the game. Those aren't the people who are fixing the bugs. Like, that work does not really impinge on the bugginess of it all.
Wait, hang on. But the guys who make the MTX, the guys who write the lore, who are the guys who do the code, aren't they?
I mean, the one argument you could make is that it's investment, like it's money from the company that's being invested into a thing that isn't more, time spent testing or time spent developing. But I don't really think that that's the problem. I don't think that there isn't enough money being invested into things. And, not having any knowledge of that specifically. I think the problem is how rapidly they're trying to do everything and the scope of their ambition. Not that they don't have people. That is purely speculation, though. You guys went real quiet. I feel like maybe I said something stupid there.
Oh no, I'm wondering how many people that have working on the game now. There's a lot of talk, right about the team being split between Path of Exile 2 and the current league launches. I wonder what the split is or is it just time allocation? Do they okay, you guys got 1.5 months to work on the new league, and then we'll have a couple support staff
It depends. It depends who it is. Basically, all their terrain people are on PoE2. It's why we haven't had many new assets. Because if you think most of the assets are mystery boxes, and the mystery boxes being Ashabi was a MTX set, Metamorph was the Metamorph boxes. Most of the tile sets are old tile sets. So it's people who make levels, those guys are all in PvE2. Then obviously developers will be split based on whatever. But it's also one of the things where, and this is just me using common sense, this isn't inside information, you don't really need like your big 5-head league theory crafter or like your big 5-head skill gem guys like Rory making quests for PoE2, because that's a completely different skill set. That's the what is the story, plan out the story, make the zones, put the NPCs in, is completely different to delve but up, or you know what I mean. So
anyways, my feeling, like closing thought, I guess, is just I'm tired. Like I want Heist to go well. I like the mechanic. There's things about it that I really enjoy, but it's been exhausting slogging through another set of bugs and really rapid rebalancing, and I don't blame people for just shutting it off and playing something else sometimes with how this has gone.
Ziggy?
Reminds me of Synthesis a little bit. Very cool lore and story, characters and things like that. Especially the characters this time around, super cool. And the spark of what I think is actually potentially a very good gameplay mechanic. But as a wise sage once said, just fix all the problems. And I think if that happens, we might be somewhere with Heist.
Yeah. You think they're going to implement Heist like into core, right? It kind of seems like it's the basis of a new like alternate leveling system, at least to me. I just wonder how they're going to do it. Because people have been asking for alternate leveling for a long time.
I would really hope that once they've ironed out the bugs, we've had a little bit more tweaks to it, that this sticks around. Because I do think this is something special. I think it would be a real shame to lose it completely because it had a scuff launch.
Yeah,
Heist is going to have to go core with how much they invested into it. There's no way they're not planning for it to go core.
I've said that so many times.
We said that about Synthesis, and then they just threw Synthesis away.
Yeah.
And they put a lot into Synthesis.
Yep.
Well, Synthesis is there. We got the maps, Cortex maps.
Yeah, no, but we didn't get like all the insane lore and all. Because like Synthesis, if you actually do care about the story of PoE at all, there's canon lore that you need to know for the Atlas to make sense, which you cannot access in the game. Because the whole backstory of like Zana's father and then the Templar dude and how the whole Atlas functions, like all of that is missing because that was all written and added in Synthesis. So yeah.
You really don't think it's going to go core this league?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I don't know anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's possible for it not to, is more what's being said.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion.
Years ago, I would have said there's no way this doesn't go core, but yeah, now since Synthesis and other leagues, I've said there's no way this doesn't go core, and well, it doesn't go core. And a lot of the time, I don't know how true it is, but it definitely feels like it's because of the very negative reception, despite the fact that maybe by the end of the league, it was actually really, really good. So, who actually knows?
Do you have anything else you want to say about Heist, or Ziggy, that is?
I think the reward structure is, I'm not talking about the chests and regular Heist, but like the design of the quality gems and especially, we didn't mention it all, but the loot generation system. You got mad unless you guys mentioned it. The loot generation system, I really like where that's headed. I really like the look of that. If that's what we're expecting to see out of all loot in PoE2, maybe like scale back a little bit or something like that, but much less stuff dropping, rolling with some sort of sense of purpose. The roll 20. If you guys don't know what happens if you see a enchanted item or something in one of the Heist rewards, what they do is they simulate it dropping like 20 times or something, and then it takes the best result. So that's why you go in there and you see like, hey, here's a weapon that has 2-3 physical rolls and attack speed and crit and life and tri-res and stuff like that. You actually see I'm like, that's actually a good item. So I really like the looks of that system. I hope to see them do more with that.
It seems to do it with sockets and links too. Chest pieces and two-handers way more often have 5 links and 6 sockets.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, for me, I would genuinely say, despite all of its issues and despite how annoying all the stuff has been with the bugs and everything, as far as leagues go, like conceptually, I love the hell out of this league. Gameplay-wise, I still enjoy it. Version 1 was still my favorite version, but I still have fun doing, just like 8 hours straight of raw heisting. I really hope that it gets to the point where they can iron out the bugs, that the people who don't like it can, maybe if they don't end up love it, they can at least warm to it, because I do think there's something really special in there. And even just for poor Nick's sake, Nick's one of their main rider dudes, stuff like everything you put into synthesis, seeing that thrown away, and then if the same thing happened, I'll just be like, oh, someone give him a hug, dude. The people who've put all the story and work and love into that, to see that go away would suck. Hopefully going forward, even if it's just more like kill mob forehead leagues, hopefully they can inject some of this fun stuff in there as well, so that everyone gets a bit of something. But yeah, I think Heist is pretty cool.
There's actually one thing we haven't talked about.
Go for it.
They did the whole file restructuring.
Oh, Discord's file restructuring this call. Hang on, everyone's lagging out. Give me a second. I need to change our gateway. No one's seeing anything. Nothing's effing. It's fine. Are we back? Sorry, Discord broke.
Hello?
You were saying file restructuring, the gig, go.
They did that, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks before.
Yeah, that seemed a little ambitious.
Yeah.
I definitely, because on performance, I don't know. This has been the worst. Just a little rant here in the end. My performance has been the worst ever. My my FPS bar is literally just like, it goes. I don't know what you call it, but it's like every day, all day.
Did you try swapping from Vulkan back to DX11? Because I went back to DX11.
Okay, so this is what I did.
Right.
I completely uninstalled PoE standalone.
Yeah.
With the uninstalled function and everything, reinstalled it. DX11 Vulkan, installed Steam DX11 Vulkan, different options with calling and everything. Completely fresh, clean install of graphics drivers, and it's the same thing every time. I think there's a memory leak as well, because if I have PoE open, like I can't, after a certain amount of time, I can't close my PoE on this, otherwise it crashes. And I don't know what it is, but I'm getting like 6 gigs of RAM being used for nothing all of a sudden, and it's only when I open PoE. So it's been, and I don't know what to do, and it's really frustrating because it completely just bogs my PC.
That sucks.
You just need a new computer.
Yes, that's it. It's been like, my performance has been like super good, and then 312 hits, and it's like, help.
Hey, you got to buy a new expensive graphics card and brand new CPU that came out.
Actually,
I think I need a 390.
Yeah, actually,
probably.
Quickly. Nvidia,
right.
if you're watching, you're more than welcome to sponsor Baeclast. I am sure we'd all agree. We would all very happily be 3090 gamers.
No, I don't like the new free stuff. I just keep it.
DatModz isn't. He's a guest. He doesn't represent Baeclast Nvidia. Don't ignore him. He won't come back. Don't worry.
Yeah, I like to earn my graphics card through hard work and manual labor.
I can't relate to that at all. No.
Yeah. No freebies here.
Okay, that's all I had on my mind.
I think we all think very similar of this league, huh?
Please, just make it good. I want it to be good so bad.
I think like the opinions seem pretty similar. I think people just get kind of like stuck on the reeing how hard, depending on how many crashes they've had. The more crashes you've had, the harder they re. But otherwise, the opinions at the root of it seem to be similar. The tolerance for positivity seems to change depending on how many crashes you've had.
Yeah.
That's
That
my
is very
impression.
true.
Re. In short, re.
You guys are free to frolic about the fields if you want.
Oh.
If you do, wear a fucking mask. Because Corona is a thing.
Podcast.
So chat, wear a fucking mask.